Surprise! Bet you didn't know I'd have a live stream today. Unless you've come to my other bonus live streams, which I also do on Sundays without announcing them on a regular basis, nearly every Sunday whenever I'm not in traveling in Korea. And I hint at that during every live stream as well. But if you've figured out the clues and pieced it together, well, welcome. Thanks for coming. I know some of you are aware that I do these bonus live streams. Others of you, wow, I'm really bright here. Let me turn that down. Like too bright. My face is like super white, more than it's supposed to be. There we go. That should be a little bit better. Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna be doing a bonus live today. Just with, it's not a regular class. I don't have a outline. I don't have a worksheet you can download. I mean, I have an outline for me, but not an outline that I can give you because it's too messy. I always make them nice and formatted for you. But we're gonna be doing some at the top of the hour. You all are here early. We're gonna be doing some review on a topic that you don't need to know if you're a Korean person. If you already speak native Korean, this is not a This is not a topic that's gonna help anyone who's a Korean, really, that much. But if you're a Korean learner, which is like 100% of you, then this is a topic that will actually help you, even though it's useless to Koreans, if you can believe that. I'll explain why. But yeah, we're going to be talking about spacing. And yeah, it really is super helpful if you're a Korean learner for both understanding and I don't think so much for communicating to other people except for tests, but for understanding Korean, it's really helpful. But yeah, if you're a Korean, you won't need it at all, but that's perfect for everyone here. So we'll get started right at the top of the hour. All you here are early. Let's just see who is in the chat already. If you have any questions you want to ask before the class starts, feel free. I mean, it's going to be a casual class today. It's not, I don't have like a set deadline, specific exercises we have to do and all that. It's going to be more casual. We're going to just be covering a topic I normally wouldn't make a live stream about. Let's see. Jelmer and Oliwia Stella. Welcome. Yoon. Welcome. Korean Learning. Keith. Hey, Keith. May Racing TV. May and Helen. Hello. Anyone else watching the Olympics closing sermon? Is that today? I regrettably have to admit that I haven't watched any of the Olympics this year. I did watch the opening ceremony, which was pretty cool, just because, like, yeah. But no, I didn't really see any of it. I had been extremely busy, in a good way though, editing the Stray Kids series, as well as some other videos and working on some other projects. Now I have some new projects I have to start working on from this week. Korean Learning, any tips on Korean verb conjugation? For which form? Polygon said, I thought there wasn't going to be a live stream today. Yeah, there isn't a live class today. We always do 2 live classes in a row, and then the next week is off. So sometimes it actually is just off. Like, you won't even see me or hear from me. A lot of times, yeah. But if I'm not particularly busy on the day at that time that I do these live streams, like, 2 to 4, then I try to do an extra bonus live class just to review something that's not that organized. Like, I don't have to spend all day writing the outline like I do for the live stream. This I came up with in just an hour and a half this morning. Did I catch a cold? Yeah, I had a bad cold, but it's mostly better now. I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice. I can. Jeremy gave me a cold, but that's just what happens when you have a kid, is when your kid gets sick, you think, oh no, they're sick, but also, oh no, I'm next, pretty much. Should I learn Korean at the same time I'm learning Chinese? No. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't recommend learning multiple languages at the same time. That doesn't mean you can't study multiple languages, but you should be focusing on the one you're doing when you're doing it. And then if you want to learn Chinese, put aside Korean and then go back to Korean later when you want. But you don't want to be learning multiple at the same time, because you're going to get them mixed up. Like until you understand the concept, you're going to be getting it mixed up by going back and forth between, and then it just cuts your time. So would you rather study Korean? Like you could study Korean for 3 months, really put all your energy into it, get your brain thinking about it, dreaming about it, everything, like thinking about it in the shower, and then stop for 3 months, go to Chinese. Sure. Now you have 6 months of study total between Korean and Chinese, but you've got a good 3 months and a good 3 months of Chinese, right? Or here's what you could do, which is what you're suggesting. 6 months of Korean and Chinese, where neither of them really feels like you're not really focused on any or the other when you're showering. You're not really dreaming about either or the other. You just keep mixing them up. So it's less efficient. I mean, you can do it, but it's more efficient to focus all your energy on one language at a time than to swap and go to other languages. Now, I'm sure there are people who can do it, so I'm not saying this kind of thing's impossible, but if you're asking the question to me in the first place, then you're not one of those people who does that. That would be like someone who is very experienced at learning languages already and knows what they need to do. They could find a way to make it work. But for regular learners, like especially self-study learners who aren't living in that country, no, you really want to focus on the one you're doing, whether that's Korean or Chinese or anything. I have a personal experience with trying to do that as well. When I was studying Korean for the first time, trying to study Korean and Japanese at the same time, it really doesn't work. It messed up both of them. And my Korean started improving a lot faster the moment that I ditched Japanese. Nothing against it, but I was trying to hold on to it for too long. Jelmer asks, what's the called in ending in verbs mean? I actually did a separate live stream about this because it's a much bigger topic than I can answer in 5 seconds. So I recommend checking out either my live stream or my beginner course covers that. There's also a sentence connector called in, which is I'm sure not the one you're asking about. Cosma says, didn't expect a live today. Welcome. What's going to be the first meal to break the fast? For Ramadan. Oh, okay. Says, I'm fasting in Ramadan, about to break my fast as getting close to sunset. Do you have any tips on remembering which number system to use? Yes, Jerica, the really quick tip. Oh, I see a donation. Let me get to that in just a second. A really quick tip is if it's something that you can physically count, like if it's a physical thing, like a person, place, thing that you're physically counting, like books, chairs, buildings, blankets, people, animals, it's going to be pure Korean. If it's something that's a measurement, so like an amount of something, a distance, something you can't physically count, most of those are Sino-Korean. But there are a lot of exceptions in there. And if you want a quick cheat, I made a cheat sheet for the counters that you can get from my Patreon page. It's free. And it has all of the most common counters. Obviously not all of the counters, but all the most common, something like 50 or 60 of them on one single sheet with which number system you use for each of them. You'll see it's pretty much the same thing. Like all of them, most of them are pure Korean numbers. And then the bottom ones just for measurement are Sino-Korean. Okay, I see I have a donation from Apprentice Wizard, who is Raymond, of course. 새해 복 많이 받으세요. Yes, thank you. That's right. It is the new year officially now. The Lunar New Year from Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah, right? Yeah. Tuesday, yeah. It is the year of the... Hold on, let me write Raymond's name up on the board first. Thank you again. Happy New Year to you as well. It is the red horse, specifically. There's a revolving system of animals and types, like colors, basically. So you can get different ones. And this year it landed on the red horse year. Yeah, pretty much it. Nothing special, I guess. I mean, every year has their like little special meaning, but it's just a red horse. I started learning Chinese in 2018 and put it aside in 2020 to learn Korean. Now I'm back to Chinese. Hi Do P Do said something I tried to show it. I don't know if it appears. They said, just study all the languages together and suck at all of them like the rest of us. Yeah, you don't want to study multiple languages at the same time for that reason. It's just harder for your brain to manage multiple languages unless, like I said, if you're someone who is experienced at learning lots of languages, then you're not watching me in the first place because you already know how you can learn languages really well. But if someone's learning languages, that you wouldn't recommend them to do that first. Like if someone wants to learn juggling, do you recommend that they practice with knives? Like, oh no, obviously not. Because a professional would know the risks involved. They would know like, oh, hey, if I throw it up and it's moving like this, I need to move my hands away for safety. Like they can figure out how to do that. But for the average person, no, you don't learn two languages at once. It's way too risky. Trixie Pie says, I'm a beginner and I can't understand K-drama without English subtitles. You know what? Honestly, even if you weren't a beginner, even if you were, say, advanced, I would tell you that that's normal because everyone underestimates how difficult Korean dramas are to understand. They underestimate the difficulty level of Korean in K-dramas because they think it's similar to variety shows, which it's not. Variety shows are intermediate level at best. Like those are casual, everyday Korean. Excuse me. And dramas, though, are very, like, solidly high advanced. Even the easiest dramas are very high advanced level. So it's pretty normal. Is it still worth it watching with Korean subtitles? Yeah, you can watch with Korean subtitles, though. Just know that the subtitles aren't going to match because the subtitles in Korean are made by Koreans for Koreans. Why would a Korean need subtitles? Because they're not watching with the volume on, right? That's why a Korean person would want subtitles, or they're hard of hearing. Those are the two reasons why you'll see Korean subtitles on a Korean drama. It's the same thing for why would there be English subtitles on a TV show in the US when everyone speaks English, right? Well, it's so that they can show the drama in gyms when you're exercising and they can have the subtitles on the screen. Subtitles aren't going to match because they're made at a different point in production. So they might sometimes have wrong information. They haven't been updated with how the film was actually finalized when it was edited. Sometimes it's happened. They'll also be a little bit shorter because if the character's speaking, they're not gonna be able to put all that on the screen because you can't even read it that fast. So they'll truncate it. They'll simplify what's on the screen. So just keep that in mind. You might mishear something and the subtitle doesn't match. You might have heard it correctly. Hope Waterfall, welcome, Hope. Let's see. Having at least a few months space between them was a huge help. Yeah, giving yourself some space when you're studying multiple languages is good. I think it's good enough if you just separate them when you're learning them. So if you really, really wanted to learn Korean and Chinese at the same time, and you had 6 months, just for example, 3 months solid of Korean, like don't even look at your Chinese stuff. Keep that in a separate like bookshelf. And then after 3 months, goodbye Korean. I never knew you. And then focus completely on Chinese and just let yourself forget all the Korean. Like don't worry if you're forgetting it. That's going to be the best way to do it. Ellie says, I loved your ATs series. Nice. Who from ATs left a big impression? A big impression. I don't know. It was kind of a blur. Like, I do so many of those. I watch so many of the videos. It's hard to pick out, like, after doing, I've done, BTS, Stray Kids, all these groups. Not that much sticks with me after a long period of time. But, like, here and there, they'll be like, oh, that person was goofy. Hongjung probably stuck with me forever, I would say. He never left my mind. Besides that, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there are other, quirks of everyone, but that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah. For obvious reasons, but checkboard it. But the thing is, like, it doesn't even have to be my favorite. The person, whoever I'm talking about, doesn't have to be my favorite member to stick with me. That's not what it is. It's more like what was so unique about them as a Korean speaker. That's going to be different than as a Korean learner or as a non Korean speaker, because the things I see that many people feel is like, oh, that person's so unique. To me, it's just a Korean person. They're unique in this way, but so are the other 70 million Koreans in Korea unique in that sort of sense. But if someone like really stands out to me, like as a Korean person, then yeah, that I'll remember that. Hongjung is a bit jealous. Okay. Between 책벌레 and 독서광 is 책벌레 is a bit more common, I'd say, for like, you know, really into books. 독서광 is more of like a maniac, so it's not a bad meaning, but it's kind of more like someone who's obsessed with something, and it's just a little less common. 광 is a 한자 that means like maniac or insanity, basically. So you'll see it attached onto the end of a lot of words. Okay, we'll get started with a little review of spacing in about 10 minutes. Until then, I'm just trying to go through these questions, see if there's anything else. I use subtitles when watching British and Irish. That's good. Why do you conjugate 잘생기다? Because originally 생기다 is to form or occur. So literally you're saying they formed, their features formed well. So it's a past tense, it's an expression. Basically, it's used as an adjective. Even though the verb originally comes from 생기다, which is an action verb, it's combined together as one word. Just, you can simply remember it as is. It's used as a compound word. In fact, that's part of the spacing we're going to be talking about today. Is if a word is a compound word, it doesn't use spaces. And 잘생기다 is an example of a compound word originally, though now you would just look at it as one single word. So the reason why, as far as you need to know, it's just because it is. The detail is about like the original, you know, the actual why is the meaning of the verb, but that's not really important because it's not used that way. Currently watching your video so I can speak to my Korean partner's family. Nice. I hope you're going through the beginner course that I have, the 100 episode beginner course. 나는 피자를 좋아하거든. I like pizza. 재미있는 라이브가 있네. In my last year of bachelor's in Korean studies, in Holland, wow, my passive skills are fine, but I can't speak at the same level. Yes, you know, Miriam, you'll never have the same speaking skills as your listening skills. I've never heard of people saying they speak better than they listen. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, unless you never studied Korean before, you just knew some phrases, then yeah, sure, that could be accurate. Like at the very beginning, that can be accurate. But no, it's always going to be a big gap between your listening skills and your speaking skills. The only way to get better at speaking is by doing lots more speaking practice, not by listening practice. It's just by doing lots of speaking practice. Speaking won't make you a better speaker in itself, but it'll make you more efficient at speaking, I guess is what I meant to say. So yeah, what I'm saying is it's pretty much normal. If you want to improve your speaking, you're going to have to do more speaking practice. And a really good way to do that, though, so that you're not just doing more efficient speaking, but that you can learn new words as well, which is what you're probably talking about, is listening while you're doing speaking practice. And there's a cheat code for that, which is just having real life Korean conversations. If you can't do that, a tutor. If you can't do that, then lots of comprehensive input. Basically, it's just a fancy word for listening practice that you can kind of understand. It's a little bit above your level is the idea. Lots of that. Plus, you still need to have an outlet for speaking. That's the at the end of the day, you still need to. So finding an online friend that you can practice with. In one of your videos, I've seen you write subtitles as 하기보다는. It would be in one word. If you saw there's a space, it would be just a typo. Because the grammar form is 기보다는. And 보다 is the particle, which is the grammar form, which sticks after whatever it's used after. So, how to fix fluency issues. Like when you know what to say in the grammar too, but how to sound more articulate. That's just to do with your Korean level. It's getting able to say basic things you want is the beginning part of the intermediate level, I feel. When you say that you're intermediate, my mind goes to that you can say most of what you want to say now. It's not going to be like really quick. You're not going to understand everything. You're not going to be able to fluently articulate it, but you can say it. Like you feel, oh, I want to say that this light is a bit bright. So you say, 불이 조금 너무 밝아요. Okay, yeah, good. But that's not the most articulate way. It makes sense. The light is a little bit too bright. Sure. But you wanted to say it more like, man, the light's a little bit bright, isn't it? So there would be a better way you can do it if you knew the word 조명 for lighting. 조명 좀 밝은데? 조명 좀 밝은데요? 조명 좀 밝은데? Might be a better way as far as how you might want to express it. But it's the same thing. It's just a different version of what you were saying anyway. That only comes with more listening practice and then speaking practice to back it up. That way you don't forget it. All of you need to be doing a lot more listening practice. So specifically, you want content that you can kind of understand. So don't do like listening practice that's way above your level. Like I always say, don't just watch the Korean news. That's horrible listening practice. Unless you are already at a native, almost native level, then yeah, listening to news is great. If you're already completely fluent, sure, now let's go to some Korean news and, medical journals and stuff like that. You need to be doing a lot more listening practice for content you can kind of understand. So variety shows are the best for that. YouTube also is just as good. Like vloggers on YouTube do really good listening comprehension that you can kind of understand what they're saying. And then especially they have subtitles anyway in Korean. So like reading subtitles plus listening to them and doing that a lot will help with this sort of thing because you'll pick up words. You're like, oh, I see they're saying, oh, that's the word for light. And they used a different word, 조명. What's 조명? You search it. Oh, it's lighting. That's like the technical term for lighting. And 불 is just more like any sort of light in general, like room lights or whatever. So you see them use that word a few times and then you practice it yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to forget it. It just goes in one ear and out the other. That's how you get more articulate at speaking. But once you've reached the basic level, like once you reach that a low intermediate level where you can start saying things, even at the first level, that's fantastic. That's amazing when you can do that because that means the doors are now open to you to using tons of listening content and all this other stuff that was kind of too far away, too difficult for you. Now everything kind of becomes open. Okay, we'll start in just a few minutes. 한국어 실력이 다음 단계로 들어가면 정말 스스로를 채찍질해야 해요. You have to like, what do you call that? Whip yourself. Yeah. Pronunciation's so hard. Any tips for that? I practice, but the sounds don't match. I recommend singing if you like singing. The reason is what you're doing when you're singing is you're going to be imitating how the original singer sounds. But you're actually doing something that is a normal technique for language learning called shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to something and you try to repeat it back exactly as someone says it. It's something that we do in our native language. It's something you do without realizing just when you speak. Like if you hear, for example, say you're a guy and your girlfriend keeps saying, 그러지 마, 그러지 마. You keep hearing 그러지 마 or 왜 이래. And you hear that intonation, you hear the pronunciation, and you start saying it like that too. That is shadowing without you really realizing you're doing it. You hear it, and that's how you then say it. And now, congratulations, you talk like a girl. But that's shadowing. Singing is the same thing. When you listen to how someone sings and you copy the inflection, everything like that, and then you sing it the same way, that is shadowing, although it doesn't have to be as boring as playing a tape recorder and copying it back exactly as it sounds. It can be singing. I did shadowing that way for Japanese a lot, Korean a little bit too. It's helpful because you're still learning pronunciation, especially if you do it a lot. Don't just do shadowing practice on one song or one singer. If you're doing singing, the reason is that songs don't have the best pronunciation a lot. They'll smush lyrics. They'll distort pronunciation to make it rhyme, which is what you don't want. But if you're doing enough of it, it kind of blends together and it won't really mess anything up. I would recommend that. Shadowing is great, but the idea of just shadowing is boring. So to kind of fix that, singing works. But if you don't like singing, then I would just say find someone you like how they sound, like YouTuber, play tons of their videos, and while you're watching, try speaking out loud, copying things that they say. Like pause the video, try to copy what they say, read their own subtitles, and keep doing that. Do that like for, 10 minutes a day. Doesn't have to be that much. Just something to get your ears used to and your mouth used to copying what your ears are hearing. Polygon said, oh, you got the Korean conversation. Nice. But I barely used it. That's fine. That's fine. It's good you have it. You have, since you have the book version, you get the extra 5 conversations at the end, which are higher level than the other 20. I know there's one for like making or canceling a reservation, which was one of my favorite ones, actually, was I think it's 24 or 25, one of the last ones. 하더라도, shouldn't there be a space before, or is it directly attached to it? We're going to talk about that. Oh, if it's 샀다 하더라도, that's not 2 spaces. I mean, that's not 1 word. It should be spaced. It's 2 words. And I'll actually talk about why there wasn't a space there too. Okay, ask difference between shir and pang. Shir is just a hanja. It's a Chinese character. It's not a word. If you use shir as a word, that is not the hanja word. That is the Korean word for thread, is shir. So pang is the Korean word for room. You use pang. Shir would only be on a hanja word that already has, like 교실. 교 meaning learning, hanja, and shir meaning room. So 교실 is like classroom. But you can't just throw shir, like shir에 들어갔어요. It makes no sense. Like I went in the shir. That means like shir에 들어갔어요 sounds like I went inside the thread. Doesn't make any sense. So I want to talk about spacing today because this is something I can't talk about in a regular live stream. It's not really like a lesson so much because, okay. Let me show you. Funnily, this is the word for spacing, and there are no spaces in this word. 띄어쓰기. 띄어쓰기. Now, technically, this is the diphthong, right? It's this diphthong, which is pronounced as 의, right? But many diphthongs, in fact, most of the time, actually get pronounced simplified as only 1 syllable. So in this case, it only gets sounded like this when it's said regularly. Now, if you're reading this for like a dictionary entry, you'd say 띄어쓰기, but no one's going to say that. They always say it as 띄어쓰기, or 띄어쓰기. You can add a little bit in there, but it's okay if you say it with, it's okay if you don't pronounce this part if you want. If it's easier, you can just say 띄어쓰기. Totally fine. Kind of optional. So this means spacing. And the way it works, it's actually a combination of 2 verbs originally. It's 쥐다, or 띠다, if you want to say, and 쓰다. Now, 쓰다, of course, means to write something. 띠다 means to space something. So if you're actually describing something like, oh, how do I spell the word? You'd say 거기서 띄고, like make a space there, and then write this. So 띠다 is the normal word for to space. You don't use this verb that much, but if you wanted to say like 뛰지 마세요. Actually, it would sound like 뛰지 마세요, but they might think it sounds like to run. 그냥 한 단어예요. 뛰지 마세요. Like, don't space it. It's 1 word. Anyway, so literally, 띄어쓰기 means spacing and writing. So writing with spaces, basically. So this is just the word for spacing. Now, something about spacing is it's actually very new. Spacing did not exist just a little bit over 100 years ago. There was no such thing as spacing in Korean. Why? Because prior to the very late 1800s, like more realistically, prior to the early 1900s, Hangul was not used in Korean. It existed from like 1450-ish. It's been around for a long time, but no one used it. It was discriminated against heavily, so much that they pretty much just locked it away and said, we were just going to pretend that didn't exist. And then in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they wanted to They pulled it out again, dusted it off, like, hey, look at this. This is cool. This is a good thing for our country. Let's start using it. Problem is, when you write Korean before Hangul, when you write it with Hanja, so they wrote it with Chinese characters, or some cases it would be mixed script, you don't need spaces when you're using Chinese. Chinese characters don't have spaces. If you've ever seen people write Chinese, it's just blah, 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 blah. You know, this case written a little nicer than that. There are no spaces. They'll have, at best, you'll see like a comma or a period, you know, an exclamation, something. They have some punctuation, but there are no spaces. You don't need spaces in Chinese. You do, however, need spaces with the Korean alphabet. So spacing didn't even exist at all a little bit over 100 years ago, and didn't even have rules until after. Like, first when they started using the Hangul, if you ever see older Hangul, there are no spaces. Spacing was a very new invention in Korean. And in modern Korean, you actually do not need to know spacing for using Korean. It's not like English. For example, in English, if you wrote this with any wrong spacing, people would laugh at you. They would say your English is terrible. Like, what if I did this? I am a Korean. Like, it's such a small spacing mistake, but it looks weird, right? Like, right away it jumps out. Like, we know what we're trying to say. We know what they're trying to say, but it looks wrong. But what if you did this? What if someone did this realistically? What if someone did this? I am a Korean teacher. Or even this. What if someone did this? It just looks wrong in English, right? It looks so weird. You can read it, no problem. I am a Korean teacher, but it looks kind of like really? It's so obvious. So this is something that was a bit difficult for me to wrap my head around. But in English, we really care about spacing, and everyone knows that. Korean, nobody cares. It's so weird. Nobody cares about spacing. Now, I have to put a little asterisk next to what I'm saying. If you write one sentence like 나는 한국을 좋아, I'm writing this bad, but you know, 좋아해, not even 좋아해요. 나는 한국, like if you do this, it looks like you're uneducated. It looks like you're a child who doesn't know anything about Korean. Besides, I'm not talking about extreme stuff like where you just write everything smashed together, but I'm saying you mess up spacing a bit. So you do this. No one's going to care. They'll know, oh, maybe there should have been a space there if, you know, because it's such a simple short sentence, they could figure it out. But they're not really going to care. But if you go further than that, so something that's not as like textbook sounding as I like Korea. So we have 좋을 것 같아. I think it'll be good. No spaces. A Korean will look at this and say, looks great. Or if they want to be a little fancy, they're going to say, oh, you know, you should learn spacing. Haha. Spacing is still important in Korean. You should space. But that's not correct either. This is not correct either. But this is how you'll also see a lot of people write. 좋을 것 같아. Or 좋을 거, you know, same thing. 좋을 것 같아. This is what you'll see most of the time. And this is also wrong. There should be a space here. 좋을 것 같아. The number of people who will write it like this is like less than 10%. You do not need to know spacing for Korean. There's only one situation where you do need to use correct spacing in Korean, and that is if you're just taking like a test, specifically like the TOPIK. The TOPIK has like a writing portion. So if you do inaccurate spacing, they mark you off because you're supposed to write it correctly with spaces and everything. And if you don't space it, well, you didn't learn that part correctly, so they mark it off. You lose points. So you need to space correctly on tests as well as essays. You're supposed to have better spacing on essays. Now, for a Korean's class, in Korea for Korean native speaker, it doesn't have to be perfect spacing on an essay even, but as a Korean learner in a Korean class, you want it to be perfect on your essays. So when I say essays, I mean your essays. I don't mean a Korean person's essays, in which case it's not as big of a deal. But for your tests and your essays, you need to know spacing. And so I said you don't really need spacing for Korean. Koreans themselves, Koreans don't know spacing rules. Yes. Koreans, let me see the best way I should say this. Koreans don't know spacing. Korean teachers don't know spacing. I said Koreans, I wasn't saying just regular people. Koreans in general don't know spacing. They don't know spacing rules. And to go further, they don't care about spacing. Koreans can make mistakes spacing. Korean teachers, including myself, can make mistakes spacing. I was researching when I wrote this in the morning, after I wrote all of my rules, I Googled Korean spacing rules to see if I'm missing anything. Spoiler alert, I wasn't, but I like to check. I like to make sure I'm giving you guys all the right information. I found an article, I won't say who wrote it, a popular blog article that was about Korean spacing rules. And most of the information it gave was wrong. Like it said, don't do this for this word. Make sure to space this word. And it was literally wrong information. And I'm not talking about it was written by AI. This was a little bit older article. It was just all wrong. It was just the person doing their best to explain spacing rules. And they thought that some exceptions for words were actual rules when they weren't. So be careful about that, is just what I want to say. If you see spacing in Korean, you can check it. There are actual resources that have accurate spacing rules. If you ever search like 띄어쓰기 or like 맞춤법 might be a better word you can search. Oops, I wrote that weird. 맞춤법 encompasses spelling and spacing. This is like the correct way of writing Korean. If you ever search for like 맞춤법, 규정 or 규칙, like rules or, you know, the special rules you're supposed to follow for doing it, or 띄어쓰기, just search for 띄어쓰기 rules or whatever in Korean. And you'll find they have like long lists of like this word, this word like that. It's a really detailed thing. Most Koreans don't know these and most Koreans don't care. So that's good for us. It means that even if you make a mistake, no one will know. So just doing your best will make you look like you have perfect spacing in the eyes of a Korean. If you space things, even just with the tips I'm going to give you today, which isn't everything, even just with these tips, you're going to look like a genius in spacing. People are going to be like, wow, your spacing is the best I've ever seen. Where did you learn how to space? That's how good you're going to sound. So you can legitimately have better spacing than a native Korean person just with these tips I'm going to give you today. Isn't that cool or sad, I guess? Anyway, learners though, so us Korean learners, we can really benefit from knowing spacing, because if you know how to space a word correctly, you can recognize when someone doesn't, and you can better understand something that you're reading. Like if someone writes, let me try to think of an example. Let's just use 좋아하다 because it's easy. So you see this word written in a book. This is a simple example. But you don't know spacing. So you're thinking 좋아하지 않네. What's this? What is this? You Google 좋아하, you know that this means like. So you're like, okay, this is like 안내. This looks like 안타, right? This looks kind of like that. Maybe it's 안내. Okay, so I think I kind of get this. But what's this part? So you Google 지란내 you're thinking maybe it's like a special verb that I don't know. I can't find it. If you knew spacing rules, that 안타 is a separate verb it actually originally comes from anhada, if you're wondering, is a separate word, then you can decide that, oh, that must be a part. So this is what I should be looking at like this. And then what is this? Like, you can more easily analyze sentences if you know what it's supposed to be spaced like. If you can just recognize what the parts could be, then you can tell what you should be looking up in the dictionary, which will save you a lot of time. A really common one would be like the other one I gave you. 좋을 것 같아. Let's say you didn't know the grammar form 것 같아 yet. It's not a very difficult grammar form. It's definitely in this like low beginner level, but you're still in the low beginner level, let's just say, and you haven't learned it. So you're Googling, what's this? 좋을 것. It would have saved you a lot of time if you knew that 것, at least if you knew 것 was a word. You probably would have learned that first. 것 is a separate word, in which case it would be spaced, and then you can start thinking about it as, well, what is this 것 thing? Oh, this is thing. Then you can Google this, 같아, like. So it's like a thing that's 좋을, what's this? Then you can focus on the one part that you actually should be focused on, not on this thing or whatever. Anyway, I kind of hope you get the idea here, but knowing spacing will help you to understand things better. And it also helps with, oh yeah, another way. It also really helps with proper names. Like if you see a word that's like one word and it's not spaced, say in your textbook, so this is something that's supposed to be correct. You see like a word that's not spaced, it's all smashed together. You know your spacing rules though, and you know that it's common that proper nouns, so like specific names of people, place, things like that, don't get spaced most of the time. Then you can go in your head like, oh, maybe that's a proper noun. Maybe I should Google this as one word, even though it looks like 3 separate words. So knowing these tips will help you to figure out more Korean more easily. So I'll just go over the most important stuff today. It's not every exception, but it is the majority, the bulk of Korean spacing. And starting with the basic rule for spacing, which covers like 80% of cases. I don't know the number, I just made it up. That is every individual word in a sentence. If it's a separate noun, adverb, adjective, verb, it's supposed to be spaced. Everything by default. So, I like Korea. Well, there's something else we're going to talk about. 저는, we'll talk about that in a second. 한국 Korea 좋아해요. I know I wrote that kind of small. Hopefully you can. 저는, so I, 한국 Korea를. We'll talk about this in a second, why this is attached. 좋아해요. So I like Korea. 3 separate words. I here, Korea, and to like, the verb. Default. Every separate word is separated. Every separate word is separated, yes. With the exception of particles and markers. Why? Because particles and markers by default attach onto wherever they're being used. That's not just the topic, subject, and object marker. That also includes particles. So like 에게, like to a person, or like 도, like me too, or like ante, or 이랑, with, or 와, or 과, or 으로, or 붙어. Any of those particles that you learn, 만, all of those particles. There are a lot of particles. I even have a cheat sheet on particles if you want to get like a, 20 or something. I don't know how many are on there of the most commonly used ones. Particles and markers are an exception. Those ones will stick directly onto the word because they are directly modifying the word. If it's not a particle or a marker, every individual word in Korean gets spaced. That's the bulk of spacing that you need to know. If you only know that, I'm not joking. If you only know this one rule, you can space better than most Koreans, which is pretty sad, actually. Because you'll see people like they won't even space in separate words. But let me show you a little bit more about this. Like just this alone, you're already getting on par with a native Korean speaker. Let's say 미국의 oops. 갈 거예요. We'll talk about the AO part, why that's attached as well in a bit. So 미국에 가다, to go to America. 갈, to go. This is from the verb 가다, right? 갈, call, a thing. It's a separate word. 에요. So I will go to America. The particle 에, to, is attached because it's a particle or a marker. Those all get attached. 갈, space, 거예요. So 미국에, one part. 갈, one part. 거예요, one part. Two spaces in the sentence. That's all. These are separate words, so you space them. Anytime there is a separate word that you're using, so noun, adjective, adverb, verb, you always will add a space. Again, except for particles and markers. Now, there's something else that is really closely related to this. Can you think of a verb that uses the word 하다 at the end? Can you think of any word that uses 하다? Specifically, let's go with an action verb to make it simple. Just give me one. Meanwhile, I check the chat because I've been ignoring the chat a little bit. Hope Waterfall said, you read a folktale from 1930 and all the numbers were in Hanja. Yes, that's because Hangul was not popular until, yeah, I mean, popular, I would say after the Korean War, but used from like late 1800s. You'll see it. But yeah, really popular was like during the Japanese occupation of Korea, started to get more popular a little bit because people were still using it, but kind of banned. So after the Korean War, you start seeing it to really emerge. But if you see older photos of Korea, you'll see signs that are just written in Hanja. Like everything was Hanja. Newspapers were all Hanja. Let's wear our space pants. Yes. That does explain why even in published novels, spelling can sometimes be random. Yes. So I just want you to not be surprised when your Korean teacher, and I'm not dissing other Korean teachers. I mess up spacing too, because there are a lot of specific rules. I'm not going to mess up these basic rules unless I want to, like I'm being really lazy. But there are a lot of specific spacing rules that people can mess up as well. But that's not what I'm talking about. Those are the ones that like us teachers will still mess up. But regular Korean people will mess up even this one. Okay, 공부, 설거지, 사용, 시작. 좋아하다 is actually technically an action verb, so you're not wrong. 요리하다. Let's use 요리하다. I like that. 요리하다. So if you're using this to mean 요리하다, meaning to cook, right? If you're using this as a verb, then if you're saying I cook, 저는 space 요리해요. One word. No space here because it's one word. I cook. 요리하다. However, you know how many of those action verbs actually can use this as well, right? You can have like an object marker and 하다. The reason is because if you say 요리, 하다, you're saying 요리 means cooking, 하다 is to do. 저는 요리해요. Literally, you're saying I do, 해요, I do 요리. 요리해요. But it's used as one verb, so it's not I do cooking as much as it feels like I cook. 저는 요리해요. I cook. I do cooking. But you can also use it with an object marker. Literally, to do, object, cooking, to do the cooking. 저는 요리를 해요. I do the cooking. Same sentence. The nuance is very slightly different, but the meaning is the same. If you have an object marker, well, if you're going to use it, it'll have to go directly on 요리, right? Because, oh, I wrote that really weird. Because I said that anytime you have a marker or a particle, that attaches directly. And it's the same thing here. 요리, oops, why did I write object? Why did I write, sorry. 요리를. I don't know why I wrote there. 요리를 하다. Anytime that you have the object, the object marker has to attach. And anytime, so if you have a object here, that means that these are now two separate words. So you have a space here. So if you don't use the object marker, it attaches as one word. And if you do add the object marker, well, technically now you're making it into two words, right? You're no longer saying 요리하다, to cook. Now you're saying 요리를 하다, to do cooking. Again, the meaning's the same, but the nuance is ever so slightly different in that instead of being one word, to cook, now you have two words, to do cooking. So you do space if you're ever adding the object marker with any of the verbs with 하다 that can add. Now, there are a lot of verbs that can't add the object marker. 좋아하다 is not made this way. 좋아하다 is not a combination of to do. It's a separate verb and it's a separate grammar form. So you can't say 좋아를 하다. Doesn't make any sense. It's always one word. But if you can add an object marker, 요리를 하다 would be spaced. And there's a tip I have for you that should help. Anytime you have a marker, so you have, actually, let's say you have a word, and then after you have a marker, or maybe a particle, or maybe you have multiple particles, right? So you have a marker or particles or whatever after your word, right? Doesn't matter what it is, to keep things simple. It can be like or like 에게는, let's say 에게는, sorry, that's horrible. 에게는, you could do 에게, 그 사람에게 많은, you can extend it. You can do a lot of things. But you have all of your particles or markers, or maybe it's just the object marker. After you've done this, by default, there will always be a space added after you're done with whatever goes here, whether that's just one marker or 1,000 markers and particles, whatever you want to slap on the end. There will always be a space after. Because no other word can directly attach to another word except for a marker or particle. So you have to have a space. Therefore, it should be easy to understand why if you say 요리를 하다 or 요리를 해요 or whatever like that, 저는 요리를 해요, I cook, you have to have a space here for that exact same reason, because this is the end of the word. By default, adding a marker or particle makes that the end of the word now. So you have to add a space. So yeah, anytime you're doing this, add a space. This will also look better, because if you have it smashed together, it'll just look weird. I would say this is actually a rule that Koreans themselves are good at doing, because it looks weird when you stick two words together when one already has a marker or a particle. So that's, I think, what Koreans would be good at, actually, is adding a space after a marker or a particle. But now you are too. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. I don't know. I'm just trying to, there's a lot of stuff I'm trying to go through. I don't want to make it too quick. Yeah, 게임하다, same thing. Do you just live off of teaching Korean? Not quite live. I'm alive, though, if that answers your question. Okay, I would live happily off teaching language if I could. Okay, next is compound words. Can anyone think of a compound word? That's just two words that are stuck together into one word. Because you're not going to be surprised when I say compound words are written without a space. Oh boy. That's a genius observation, Billy. Well, yeah, duh. Can you think of any compound words? Yeah, 물고기. Sure. Literally, 물 is water, 고기 is meat. So water meat is what you're saying. Although the meaning switched and 물고기 is used for the live animal and not for the meat anymore, but it was switched originally. So anyway, 물고기 for fish. Yes, that's good. Here's one. 눈물. Also with water. 눈물, water. So eye water is how you say tears. 눈물. you're not going to say nun. You're not actually saying water of the eyes. You're not actually saying my eye water came out. You're not saying I ate some water meat or I saw water meat swimming around. You're not actually saying that. You're saying the compound word, which has a different meaning. So compound words will be new words that are not simply just the two words literally like together, but they have their own meaning usually. Yeah, 찬물, another new, yeah, 눈 사람. You're not literally saying a snow person. They're not alive, but it's a snowman, right? 놀이기구. Yeah, 놀이기구. Sure. Any sort of like compound word is written without a space. And this also includes any word that has what's known as a 사이시옷. I wrote that really messy. That's anytime you see a word, let's just do whatever. Atko, guang. Like, this is not a real word. Anytime you see this bottom letter, I'm just going to erase it. I'm embarrassed now. Anytime you see this letter as a bottom syllable in a word, if it's between a word, like if you see it, it's not the end of the word, but it's somewhere in the middle of the word, you see this letter. Probably is what's known as a 사이시옷. The 시옷 is just the name of this letter. It's just called a 시옷. 사이 means in between. So literally is a 시옷 that is in between the word. Literally. This indicates that the word is a compound word. So if you see any word that has it, most likely, now there are exceptions because there are words that actually have that at the bottom that can then be mistakenly stuck to another word. Like tat would be like the pine cone needle. No, the pine nut. Yeah, pine nut, I think. But it's not that. It's a different word. So this automatically means it's a compound word most of the time. Like if you were to see, like ta would be car, or it can also be tea. And 집 is a house, literally. But 찻집 is a tea house. Now, it doesn't mean a house that's built out of tea, right? It means a house, a restaurant. 집 actually is also used for restaurant a lot. Like you would say 맛집, like a good restaurant, or 맛있는 집, like a delicious restaurant. But 찻집 means obviously a tea house. So this here is that 사이시옷. It's the one that connects the word 타 with 집 together into one compound word. It's written as one word without a space. So anytime there's a compound word, as well as a lot of common compound words that you learn when you're learning Korean, like ibun, kubun, right? Chobun, as well as like igot, like this, kugot, togot, like that. These are compound words as well. Literally, ibun. Bun means a person. So this person, literally, ibun. But you're not actually saying, when you're saying, like, I helped them, I helped this person right here. Literally, you're saying ibun, like this person, but what it means is more like he or she. And igot is literally this thing. Kugot, that thing. But it's more like how we would say, oh, I like this. I like that. So these ones you can simply memorize, that if you learn these simple words, these are also considered compound words. They're written without a space. If you wrote it with a space, it feels like you're literally trying to say this person instead of like, you know, you right here, ibun, like this person right here. When you're trying to say here, this person I'm talking to, like he or she, not literally this person. So anyway, these ones you just have to learn. So there isn't really a secret for compound words. If you see that 사이시옷 that I mentioned, that can kind of give it away that it's a compound word. Other than that, you just have to learn these. You can always find them in the dictionary though. So if you want to know if it's a compound word, you can just check. It'll show up in the dictionary as one word or two words. And compound words, again, are never spaced. So 띄어쓰기 is a compound word. 띄어쓰기. Why? Because it is. That's the actual answer, because it is. Because originally, 띄어쓰기 would not be a compound. It's actually two separate parts. It comes from 띄다 and the 서 form, right? And then 쓰다. 띄어, 서, 쓰다. So to write while spacing, to space and write. So 쓰기 is just writing, the gerund form, the noun form. So writing spaced. is what you're saying. But it's used as compound. It's not used to mean writing spaced, but it's used to mean spacing, as in the concept of spacing, which is why it's written as one word. And 띄어서 쓰다 is the original way it would be written. Now, if you wanted to write, if you wanted to actually use the expression to like write while spacing, like 띄어서 썼어요, 띄어서 잘 썼어요, like I wrote it well while spacing it, then that has to be spaced. Even though 띄어쓰기 is not spaced, 띄어쓰다 is spaced. So I wrote this in parentheses because anytime you use the sol form, anytime, this might be a revelation, every single usage of the sol form can be removed. Now, that doesn't mean you can add it back every time, because there are certain cases when it can and can't be brought back. But as far as like, is it legal? Can you technically do it? Yeah, every time you can remove it. So it's there. 띄어쓰다 is there. The sol is there, but it's just not, you don't have to say it. So if you were to say to write while spacing something, you still have to space it, because it's not a compound word. It's two separate words. And in fact, that goes for every single combination of verbs. Like if you were to say anything with the sol form, it has to be spaced normally. Like 찍다. 찍다 has a lot of meanings. It can be like to take a photo. It can also be to dip. So like food that you eat, you 찍다, and then you 먹다, right? How do you combine those? Like the way I ate was I ate it by dipping it. We would just say, oh, I dipped it. We don't need to say I dipped it before I ate it necessarily. We can just say, oh yeah, it was really good. I was like dipping it in cheese. That implies I ate it, right? Or you could say I ate it by dipping it in cheese if you wanted to, really, but we don't need to do that in English, just the way the English works. Now you can say 찍어 or 찍어서, because it's optional, 찍어 먹다. This has to be spaced. There has to be a space right here. You cannot say 찍어 먹다 as one word, because they are two separate verbs. You have to space. Hopefully I'm not boring the hell out of everyone by talking about spacing, but it is useful. And it's actually not that difficult. So there's one more thing I want to mention with this, with compound words, and that is proper nouns. Proper nouns. Proper nouns are just their own thing. So that's like the name of a building or the name of an agency or like a company name or a product name. It's whatever they want. It's their own thing. So what that means is if you want to know the correct spacing for a company or like a building name or whatever, you have to just Google it. They'll have their own spacing for it. But I do have a tip that should help you anyway. Most of the time, proper nouns are written as one word without any spacing. Why? Because it helps you recognize right away that it's not just a word. Like if you wanted to make like the National Museum of Korea is the 국립중앙박물관, written without a space. Now, if you wrote these separately, 국립 means national, 중앙 is like central, 박물관, museum. It sounds like it just sounds like three words, like a national central museum. So you might think, where is that national central museum located? It's a museum, but it's for national. Like it kind of sounds more like just the words. Whereas 국립중앙박물관, written without a space, feels like the name of something. So when you Google it, you'll find, oh, it's this actual building located in Seoul. Oh, I see, it's right there. Most of the time they smash it together as one word, but you might see places that'll do like parts of it smashed and then they'll add like a little space and then the rest of it, it's just up to whatever the company wants to do, but it's whatever they want. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to drink some caffeine and I want to look at some of your questions before I move on. We're actually like over halfway done already. So hopefully that, and we've already done the difficult part. So yeah, let's do a couple questions. That way I don't lose the chat. 바닷가, yeah. 빗소리, 물 티슈, yeah, sure. Yeah, lady is asking, what about 잘못 and 잘못? 잘못 is one word. That's a compound word. As one, if it's one, it's a compound. It means mistake or not well. And 잘 is well and 못 is cannot. That means I couldn't do it well. Like, oh, I didn't do it that well. I did it pretty poorly. 잘 못, like that. And 잘못 is I did a mistake. It's a different word. This is a good question because it's exactly what we're talking about today. 한식 is not a compound word, although it kind of is. I mean, it's not made from Korean compound. It's just a shortened word from Chinese. So I wouldn't really call it a compound word in Korean, but yeah, sure, it originally was from 한국 음식, basically, or 한국식 would be the shortened original word. 젓가락, yes. 젓가락 is for the chopsticks. 빌리 선생님께 열정적인 주제인 것 같아요. Nice. 유익한 주제예요. Nice. Although I do have a more 유익한 주제 tomorrow. I'm going to upload the episode about Hyunjin in Stray Kids. So hopefully that should be a pretty fun episode. So, okay. There's another thing. Another important word that is just an exception. And you can just learn it. Ida is not spaced. It attaches directly to whatever word it's used after. Most of the time it's a noun, but it could also be technically used after a lot of other things too. Ida, to be. So you know this guy as like 이에요, or maybe 예요, or maybe 입니다, right? Or 입니까? Or 이었어요, or whatever you want to say. Why is this one special? Well, there's only one reason. You don't need to know if you're a beginner. If you really want to know, it's because linguistically it is not considered a verb, even though I 100% support calling this just any other descriptive verb, because it conjugates and works exactly the same as any descriptive verb. But it technically is considered to be a copula. It's a fancy word. It's kind of like the Japanese ending ta or tes, which is, yeah, it's a verb, but it has different usage in that it sticks directly onto the end. So basically the answer why is because it's special. Why is it special? Because it sticks onto the end. Why does it stick onto the end? Because it's special. It's kind of what you get like in this permanent feedback loop of why does it have this special designation? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's just a descriptive verb. Just learn it. It just sticks onto the end. I'm mentioning though this because you'll see Koreans sometimes space it. Like 저는 미국 사람 space 이에요 or whatever like that. Or 이다 if they want. Sometimes people will space it when the last word ends with a vowel. And this is like really advanced, but I'll tell you anyway, because yeah, we're doing spacing, so why the heck not? Let's see. What's an example where it'd be ending in a vowel? Okay, first a regular sentence. 제 이름은, my name, 빌리예요, is Billy. So it's 이다, it's attached directly onto the end. Here's a space, that's it. But what if we didn't do that? What if we did this? This is also normal sentence. 내 이름, my name. Now we're in casual speech though. 내 이름은 빌리야. Okay, this is also 이다, so you're good. No space. Okay, but we can go a little further than that. Because what if we were not saying it out loud, but what if we were writing it as like a journal entry, like a story? In which case we got to use the plain form, right? What's the plain form of 이다? It's 이다, right? It doesn't change. So you might see this. 내 이름은 빌리. Yeah, that looks weird, right? Well, plain form actually already accounts for this. So if a word ends with a vowel, normally with 이다 anyway, when you write 이에요 or 예요, it changes, right? 이에요 after consonant, 예요 after vowel. And ida in plain form can do the same thing. It's ida after a consonant, but in this case it's a vowel, so it's 다. Right? So that's all you have to do. 내 이름은 빌리다. Perfect. But you might feel, some Koreans might feel like this is a little strange to have 내 이름은 빌리다, because in this case especially, even like 빌리다, like it sounds like 빌리다, like the verb, maybe verb 빌리다, to borrow, to loan something. So they want to make it really clear. They're like, no, it is Billy, like this. So they'll add a space and then do ida, even though it's not supposed to be spaced, even though it's not supposed to be ida, but they'll do this because it feels more professional. Because now it's like, is Billy. Now it's clear that it's separate. So it helps it feel more correct, but it's wrong. But it feels more fancy. So you might see Koreans sometimes add a space before the verb ida in any conjugation. But most of the time when they do it, it's because they want to use ida or 이에요 or 입니다, but they want to use it after a word where normally it wouldn't be that because it's a vowel. So you might see that. Just know that that's what they're doing, but you don't have to do that. It's supposed to always just attach. Okay. If you're a beginner and you heard all that, don't worry about it. That's like more of a technical, why might Koreans do this sort of thing. But yeah, all you need to know if you're a beginner is just stick it on to the end. ida and whatever you're using. So ida after a consonant, 다 after a vowel, 이에요 after a consonant, 예요 after a vowel, just like normal as you've already learned it. Okay. Okay, I messed up that really bad. Okay, 보조동사. Auxiliary, how do you pronounce that? You know what I'm talking about. Helper verbs, right? So that's something like, here we have 하다, and we attach 보다. So you know the grammar form 보다, to try, right? To try something. So how do we get that? We get 해 보다, right? Like 한번 해봐, 해보세요, 해봤어요? Or like 가다, to go, 가봤어요. 한국 아직 안 가봤어요? You've never been to Korea yet? Like you didn't try? 한번 먹어봐. 그냥 딱 한 번만 먹어봐. 먹어보다, to eat. So this 보다 is considered an auxiliary verb. The reason you don't really have to memorize why it's an auxiliary verb, other than it's just a grammar form. Any grammar form that sticks a verb onto another one, and you'll learn this when you learn about the verb when you learn about this form in the first place, you'll learn that it sticks onto the end. There are a few of these. So 보다 is one. Can anyone think of any other things that I could stick onto the end of 하다, where we get 해 instead of 해 보다? Can you think of any others? Can you think of any others? Little Prince is saying, so this just applies to written? Well, spacing only applies to written, yeah. But the ida thing I said actually could apply to spoken too if they want to do that. Yeah, 주다. Not 치다. 치다 is actually a different it's not an auxiliary verb. 치다 is not an auxiliary verb. It's just a different verb form that doesn't have a space. But that's when you would learn it, you'll learn it that it's part of it. It's just a different version of the verb, but it's not sticking an auxiliary verb onto it, if that makes sense. It's not combining two verbs together. Yeah, 주다. Like 해주세요, right? 도와주세요. 들어주세요. Please listen in. 말해주세요. Please tell me. 먹어주세요. Please eat it for me. You know? 해주다 is another. 해버리다. Like there are a few of these. There are not too many of these. For any auxiliary verb, again, it's going to be a separate verb. It's not like a form that it's not like a form that attaches to it like 치다 or anything like that. This is when it's actually a separate verb that attaches to the conjugated verb. That's why it's called an auxiliary verb. It's not just when you use a grammar form that has a verb. It's when you use a conjugated verb before another verb. And there are a few of these. 보다, 주다 are the two most common, but there's also 버리다 that comes to mind right away. Probably a couple others if I think about it. There's a nice rule about this. Anytime you have an auxiliary verb, do whatever you want. Yes or no? You can add a space. You can say, hey, 주세요 with a space, or you can say, hey, 주세요 without a space. I mean, you're saying it the same. You can write it either way. I mean, 먹어보다, to try eating something. 먹어보다, to try eating it with or without a space. They are both accurate. Legally, like in Korean grammar, legally is not the right word. Grammatically, they're both correct. Which one should you do? That's a good question. Doesn't matter, but be consistent. If you're going to use no spaces after auxiliary verbs, then do that consistently in your paper when you're writing something. Again, this isn't speech. You're not going to sound different. You're not adding a space when you're saying it. Korean doesn't do that. But when you write it, just be consistent. So when you start it, the first time you do it, decide, oh, do I want to have a, this is how I already wrote it here, so I'll just keep doing it like that throughout the whole paper. That's fine. Now, I will recommend something. If you are taking a test, so you're trying to do spacing anyway, but you're taking a test. I recommend adding a space. Now, the good thing is you're not going to lose points for not spacing, because technically, I mean, if they might take off points, then in that case, they're actually wrong. Which I wouldn't be too surprised if the person who's grading the test doesn't know spacing either that well. Technically, you can use either a space or no space, but I recommend adding a space just to be safe, because the person grading the test might not know this rule. This is more of a niche rule. And adding a space, I think, also makes it look fancier. It makes it look more proper, even though grammatically it's fine. Either way, just be consistent about it. Like if you're just writing a note for your friend and you still want to have nice spacing, do whatever. Just be consistent. If you're doing a test though, I still recommend adding it, just because more spaces looks nicer on an essay and it takes up more space. And isn't that the real purpose of taking an essay, is try to fill up as much space as humanly possible? Yeah. Anyone else do that for your high school essays? Make the font like size, it's supposed to be size 11, but you make it size 12 because you can't really tell. Decrease the borders a little bit, like just a centimeter on each side. Increase the line width, instead of 2, make it like 2.3 or something, like 2.5. You can't really tell, Increase the kerning just very slightly. The kerning can be like 1.1, be ever so slightly, but it'll make it, you're never going to know. And then you got to lots of filler words like, since the dawn of man, one might saith that humankind was not meant to perchance pertain to these levels of coincidence. And, I wrote essays in high school like that sometimes. I actually did that once for an art class. I swear, I had to write an essay for one of my art classes. It was a ceramics class I was taking. And I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. And the teacher actually thought it was the dumbest thing in the world, that she was required to have us all write an essay for the class, because they just required it as part of the grade. She's like, I know it's stupid, but you all have to write an essay about ceramics. You can pick any topic you want, blah, blah, blah. It's due, in a few weeks. So I was like, okay, I'm playing along with this. Teacher thinks it's dumb. Well, I'm going to have fun with that. So I wrote the most convoluted essay I've ever written in my entire life. I bet I still have it on my computer. I'll try to find it after this live stream if you remind me. It's just the most convoluted essay. Like, I wrote purposely the most difficult words I could find in the dictionary to say pretty much nothing in 2 pages. And the teacher loved it. She gave it an A+, like full points and bonus points and everything. And she's like, I love how smart this sounds. Anyway, I was really proud of that. It kind of reminded me of that. Anyway, yeah. You want to take up as much space as possible for an essay. Don't tell your teachers I told you that. Although still, at the end of the day, I did answer the question. That's what's important. You can't really write nothing. You have to still write something. you just pat it with lots of fluff, like a nice fluffy pillow. Oh, did my tablet turn off? 1 sec. Okay, there we go. Oh snap, it's Arlie says, legally, you're under arrest for not spacing your vowel. I used to make the period size 13. Oh, that's good. Yeah, you also gotta like indent a lot. Do the like medieval like Shakespeare style writing where like the first letter is like this gigantic block of like the letter A, like A. Inconsistent serial of events might pertain to the right. It's so complicated that your teacher feels like dumb while reading it. They're like, do I understand this? Like, no, you understand it, but the person who wrote it doesn't. Okay. The next thing is titles. So things like she or like sem for a teacher or 님. Anytime you have a title, there's always a space before it. This is another thing that Koreans don't do very well. Like, for example, 빌리, like, if I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, other teachers or other students will call me 빌리 쌤, Billy teacher. It's the same. 쌤 is 선생님. It's a less formal version of 선생님, but don't just go around using it to your teachers. It's more of like a younger teacher type of thing. Older teachers wouldn't like being called 쌤 because it sounds like too casual. Anyway, 선생님, 빌리 쌤, 빌리 선생님. There should be a space here, always. Or like 씨 for a person's name, or 님, which is also really common. So other people might call me 빌리님. Not my friends, because they wouldn't call me 님 usually. Although actually I do have a friend that calls me 빌리님. So I think it's fine. Anyway. Or like 형, 오빠, 누나, 언니, all that stuff. Any titles are also spaced. But that should make sense. That shouldn't be like, that's not an exception, right? Because we already learned every separate word except for a marker and a particle is spaced. Is this a marker or a particle? No. Therefore, it's a separate word and it gets spaced. So this isn't really it's not an exception. It's just kind of a reminder. But this is another thing you'll see Koreans won't do. Usually they'll just smash it together, and it's not a big problem. Let's get into another really niche rule. Anytime you have a number before a counter, like counters are like K, Kwon, Pyong, Myung, all this stuff. All these counters. You're supposed to space. Again, this isn't really an exception, right? Because you would already know that. Like, let's say we're doing like hana, like han, or 다섯 for 5. 다섯 space 명, 다섯 권, 한 개, 한 병, whatever. Any number before a counter, whether it's Sino-Korean or pure Korean, doesn't matter. You have a space here. Again, that should be obvious because it's not a counter. It's not a particle or a marker. So it has to be spaced. It's a separate word. But there is an exception for this. It's actually acceptable not to add a space. Especially when you're doing a lot of them. Like, if you were going to do, I mean, to be fair, most of the time you're not actually writing the hangul. Most of the time you're not writing the hangul for a number, right? Like, except for small numbers, like 1 to 10, in which case, if it's a pure Korean number, you will say 한, 두, 세, 네, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열, like that. Besides that, you usually just write the number. Like in Korean, you can write 한개, or you can just write it as 한개, like that. That's fine. But you can, again, for small numbers up to 10, write them. And if you do, you're supposed to use a space. But if you're doing a bunch of these, like, let's see, 한시 for 1 o'clock, and then 20분. 한시 20분 should be spaced, but it's considered acceptable to smash them together in Korean grammatically, it's allowed simply because it looks so messy. So you can keep doing spacing and you'll still be correct. In fact, just do that anyway if you're taking a test. But if you want to get like really picky, you can smash numbers and counters together if you're writing them in only Hangul. So if you choose to write 20분 instead of writing 20분 like this, then if you wanted to write it in Hangul, you don't have to put a space. That's only for counters and numbers, and that's only when you're doing them with Hangul, is that it's optional to put a space there. But still, I recommend adding a space because it looks nicer. They just say it's okay to not because it looks really long and messy. There's one more thing with numbers though too. This is something that you never are going to have to actually encounter. But if you were writing your own language textbook, which is the only place I've ever seen this happen, and you wanted to write out numbers using Hangul, because it's the only time you would ever write a bunch of numbers using Hangul, would be if you're making a language textbook teaching numbers. You're supposed to add a space every 10,000 digit. So every time you go to man, right? Then you have the chun, something pek, sheep, whatever number you have. All of these are spaced, and then anything here is going to have a space between them. Like you have like shimman, pek, like you have the same thing. Sheep, pek, pek, chun, like that. Anytime you have 10,000, you're supposed to put a space if you're writing your number using only Hangul. So like your 3,200, 10, or whatever you wanted to write. Again, you're never going to actually come across this because it's only in a language textbook. You're never going to actually write numbers like this. You're always going to write numbers like this with numbers 3, 2, 5, whatever, 6, 7. You're never going to write like 3, 1000, 200, like you're never going to do that. So this is more of just like a really, really, really fine detail of spacing. But to be technical, you are supposed to smash everything except from the 10,000 digits. And you add one space. Yeah, 99%, actually 100% of the time. You're just going to write it with regular Arabic numerals. And there's one more thing. Okay. So I've gone over all the big ones and even a ton of little exceptions with you, like really tiny details. You're already now, if you've taken notes, you're already a master of spacing more than the majority of actual native Koreans. I'm not exaggerating. If you can do what I've already shown you, you're already better than most native Korean speakers at spacing. But there are some exceptions. In fact, there are like a ton of exceptions. Now, the good thing though about exceptions is that you just learn them as they come up because they're not the most common things to deal with. This will be like when you learn a grammar form and I'll say, oh, this grammar form actually attaches to the verb. That's when you would have to learn it. Like, oh, I see. That's an interesting exception. That's not the majority of like regular everyday grammar, but there are some common exceptions that I want to mention. The verb 싶어 하다 normally comes from the grammar form that makes makes descriptive verbs into action verbs and adds 하다 and conjugates it. Normally, they do not add spaces. All of the other ones don't. 좋아하다 comes from the same form. 싫어하다, 미워하다. 좋아하다 is to like. This comes from that same form, from 좋다, to be good, conjugating 좋아, and then 하다, stuck to the end. It's a grammar form. There are no spaces in any of these forms, but 싶어 하다 does. Does it matter if you put it together? No one's going to care except the TOPIK test grader. But there is one there. Just this one word, 싶어 하다. Another exception that's common, I say that one because it's fairly common for like using third person. Like some people want to do this. Like 한국으로 여행 가고 싶어 하는 사람, like that. Then sure, you're going to use it. Another really common one is certain words originally would use auxiliary verbs or different forms, but they are used as compounds. So it's kind of the same as what I talked to you before about a compound word, but there are other types of compound words. There are also compound words that originally came from certain grammar forms, but are so commonly used as one piece that you can consider them as one. So 물어보다 originally is the verb 묻다, which is still used. Like 한 가지 묻고 싶은 게 있어. There's one thing I want to ask you. 묻다 is to ask. But 물어보다 is the more common verb of like to ask, to inquire, to find something out. 물어보다 originally is 보다 attached onto it, but it's used as one verb. You never space it. Now, there actually is a way to space it by adding a new grammar form in there, because this will be really advanced, but the regular verb 물어보다 is not. So it's just written as one word. But you probably already knew that, but now you know it's actually an exception to spacing. Another really common one, 따라하다. Space. 따라하다 is to follow or to copy, to imitate someone. 따라해보세요. All right, everyone, repeat after me. Like that. 따라하다. Space. That's just an exception. If you wrote it as one word, I guarantee, and you showed it to 10 people and asked them if it's good, no one's going to tell you it's wrong because it doesn't look wrong, but it's supposed to have a space. What else? Oh, yes. And then there's one more crazily common spacing issue. That this one has like people, if you search this on the internet, like 한번 and 한번, you'll see like a dozen or 100 other Korean teachers explaining the same thing. But I'll just give my 101 explanation for it. 한번 is 한, one, 번, time. So one time or once, right? 한번 is a separate compound word that originally comes from 한번. It literally means once or one time, but it's used in any sort of, when you're making a suggestion or a command. Saying, try something. So it's used to have the nuance of trying something once, but literally doesn't mean once. It means give it a try. Like 한번 한번 해보세요. Excuse me. Like I said, I had a cold, but it mostly went away, but I still have a bit of a cough. So 한번 해보세요 doesn't really mean try it once. Like only try it once. You're saying give it a try. As in, it's not about how many times you try it, just at least try it once. So you can think of this as meaning like at least once. Or like maybe like a try. But 한번 먹어봐. Give it a bite. At least try it once. Like that sort of meaning. So it's for a suggestion or a command. It's written as one word. But if you said 한번, 딱 한번 먹어봐, then you're not saying, if you added 딱 is like just an emphatic word, like just. If you say 딱 한번 먹어봐, then you're not saying 한번 먹어봐. You're saying 딱 한번, just once. Try it just once. So you can say 한번 먹어봐, and it's this. Hey, at least just give it a try. Or you can say 한 번 먹어봐. Try it once. They're both used, but the spacing is only important in writing. In speech, no one can hear it. But in writing, this is once. This is for trying things. And that's probably the most common exception. If you ask people like about spacing, they're going to tell you that one. They'll also tell you 잘못. But the problem with 잘못, I mean, not the non-problem with 잘못, is that it's two separate words. They sound like the same, but it's not a spacing error. It's not a problem of spacing. It's a problem of knowing that they're separate words. They're just homophones. So, okay, that's it. Like, as far as major exceptions goes, like there are other little exceptions here and there for grammar forms that I'll always explain whenever I teach a grammar form. But that's like the majority. If you took notes on all this, you're better at spacing. You're better at spacing than most Koreans, and you are now on par with a Korean teacher as far as spacing goes, which is really cool because I think spacing wouldn't be that easy in English. But anyway, yeah. Not sure I've ever seen sem used with a space. Yeah, it should be spaced, but because he wants that specifically for Taeung sem, he wants that to be his brand. My brand. he puts it as one word, and that's fine because it's a proper noun in that case. It doesn't really mean necessarily Taeungsem like a teacher. It's more of like his name is Taeungsem, like that. Like that's part of his name. Like teaching is his middle name sort of meaning. Although I don't know if he thought about it that far, but that's kind of what it feels like being one word. Someone has a job somewhere it matters. AI coders. I think I've seen both versions for number and counter, spaced and not spaced. Yeah, it would be, it's accepted to not space it. Though, like I said, for most of the time, you're not really gonna have that issue because people don't write it with the Korean alphabet. Usually it's written with numbers. Okay, and now that is the lesson. I mean, it's not really like a full lesson. It's more of like a review since we didn't have a regular class scheduled for today. So now I just kind of want to hang out for a little bit. Figure I'll stick around for like 20 minutes. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. As long as my throat's still doing okay. I needed something to distract me because tomorrow I'm going to be filing my taxes, which is by far my least favorite day of the entire year is filing taxes day. I never wait until, whenever the actual tax day is because I want to get it sent in really early just to get my, help me feel at ease, get all my taxes taken care of. But it's so much stuff to deal with because I have like $5, $20 from here, like all these like hundreds of little sources that I have set up where I get little bits of money kind of trickling in. Like there's nothing substantial, but all together helps me to live. And I have to report all of those little things I do separately. And it just takes a really long time. So I never look forward to doing taxes each year, but the good news is though, it only takes me one day. But the bad news is it's a very long day that I start from 8 o'clock in the morning and finish at like 6 o'clock at night with like barely eating, and I'm like sweating and dying. I do have a drink for tomorrow. So some people take these in Korea. This is not advertising for it. They sell these. And some Koreans will drink these. They have a version with caffeine as well. I like the one without caffeine, but it's just kind of like a vitamin drink. So from several years ago, I made it my tradition to drink one of those every time I do my taxes. So I kind of have some traditions that I do it's just kind of make it mentally easier to deal with a little bit. Like, oh, well, at least I get to do this on tax day. I get to drink one of those bakasdi, which I normally never drink. I get to drink one of those while I do my taxes, and then I'll get to do this, and then I'm going to take a break and do this, and trying to make it more like gamified. That way it's a little bit less torturing. Suggesting warm Jello tea. That sounds horrible. How'd you come up with the name Go Billy Korean? Because I liked the concept of like go with Billy, like let's go Billy, like that. I don't know. I just thought it just flowed off the tongue when I was thinking about it. Actually, my wife helped come up with it. Yeah, I don't know if she was the original person who came up with it, but she definitely was helping when I was coming up with the titles. I still have my original design document when I was first thinking of the channel name. And so there are a few different names on it, but all of them are something kind of similar to that with Billy. But I think, yeah, Billy worked up. How would you study Korean if you were starting now? If I was starting right now, I would get a language exchange partner yesterday. And if I can't, then I would get a tutor just to have someone to talk with once a week. At least 30 minutes a week. I need someone to talk with in Korean, even if I don't speak anything. Someone that I can like say the little bit of Korean I knew. I would honestly today, I would get a variety of resources. So, I mean, I have my free course. I might start, if I was using YouTube, if I was aware of YouTube and all that, and if I was comfortable with that, I probably would get one of my own, the beginner course. But I would also pick up some Korean reading materials, like some sort of book comics that I would be interested in. I would find some Korean shows to watch. I would go find some YouTube channels that I was interested in and start just listening to tons of Korean. I would set a study plan for myself also right away. I would decide, okay, this week I'm going to be focusing on this. This week I'm focusing on this, just for at least a month to kind of get my feet wet. There'd be some specific things I'd probably do today if I were starting over like that. Better than doing taxes with vodka. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get the right numbers if I do that. Is there a more preferable accommodation site for Korea? I'm thinking of trying a B&B instead of a hotel. So I'm actually going to be making a podcast episode about that, Keith, in a few weeks. The next podcast I'll do is going to probably be, I'm still working on it right now. It's going to be items that I recommend purchasing when you're visiting Korea to bring back to your home country. And I started thinking about that, and there are so many unique things that I like getting. And I realized I never told anyone before. So I decided, let's make it a podcast episode. So I think that'll be the next one. After that, I want to do a video about where you should stay in Seoul as a tourist. And also, when I started thinking about that, there are a lot of things I have to say about each area, why you might want or not want certain places. But for finding rooms, Airbnb is the only choice you have as a non-Korean. You cannot, unless you wanted to do like a regular hotel chain that does business with the US, like, you know, your like Holiday Inn type of thing. Like if you want to do a regular hotel chain in Korea, you know, be my guest, but you're also spending like triple the amount that you would have to spend. And yeah, you're getting a better experience for it ultimately. No, more than triple. You're getting a better, nicer experience. You know, they're going to make sure to clean your towels automatically. They're going to clean your room. But you don't have to do that. I think Airbnb is going to be a better option. But yeah, I mean, as far as exactly where, you'll have to wait for that video because I'm still writing it. But unless you have access to a Korean bank account, you can only use Airbnb. Now, if you are my wife who's Korean, who has access to all that stuff, we don't have to use Airbnb. We can use Korean websites, which are cheaper than Airbnb and have more options. But you can't use them as a non-Korean because you need to have a Korean ID to sign up in the first place, and then a Korean bank account to pay. And then if something goes wrong, you're going to need to speak fluent Korean to talk with your bank and talk with them to get it sorted out. So it's not like you can just say, oh, I'll ask my friend to book it for me. It's not really like that. Did you want to initially teach or just learn at first? Oh, well, when I was a Korean student, I didn't want to teach. I didn't even know Korean. So no, I did not want to teach Korean when I was learning Korean. And I never considered teaching Korean. Even as far as when I started my YouTube channel, I wasn't considering teaching Korean as a thing. I was just trying to make some videos just to help people online answer some common questions that I saw that they kept having. And I thought, okay, I'll just make some videos that'll help them. That was my only goal with starting the channel. I was surprised that it got a lot of attention. People liked it. And that's why it started into a thing. And I realized, oh, well, I'm going to teach Korean. Well, I better actually start learning some more about grammar and like, you know, details about Korean. And then after that, a year or so later, I'm like, well, I better start actually, you know, writing some material because I don't have any like a course. I didn't have my free curriculum. I didn't have anything that someone could start learning Korean from. I only had random lessons about topics that people were asking frequently on the internet. So it kind of evolved from me just wanting to help a few people into realizing, oh, I guess I'm a Korean teacher now. Well, okay, better do these Korean teacher things then. Kind of faking it till I made it sort of thing in the very beginning. So no, I did not want to teach Korean because I didn't think I knew Korean that well when I was learning Korean. 물어보고 싶은 게 있어요. 이 의로의 축약으로 쓸 때가 있나요? No. Would be the object marker. Uro would always be the particle uro. So you would never use as uro. Hopefully that answers. I know it's not a very cool answer, but no, those would be separate particles. Do not contradict. They have overlap meanings sometimes. Yeah. In English, when you translate, they can have overlapping meanings. Like, you can go like 집으로 가다, but you could also technically 집을 가다. And I actually have a video about that if you search in my Korean FAQ series, how to use the object marker for location. But the particles themselves are not actually changing. It's just the meaning in English that sounds like it's similar. Yeah. Ezra says, I'm planning to move to Korea in the fall for language school. Do you recommend any schools? Ooh. Yes, but you said preferably not in Seoul. So no. But actually, not Seoul, but Suwon. Are you okay? Like, do you want to be far from Seoul? I guess that's the question. Is there a reason that you don't want to go to Seoul? Because that'll help guide what I would tell you. Any language school I recommend is usually going to be just like Sogang in Korea, because that's honestly the only one that I've consistently heard people say they liked was Sogang. Sogang University. They do a language program. Now, you're not going to get in there as an actual student at the university unless you are already living in Korea and you have a visa to live in Korea and everything. If you're a tourist there, if you're a visitor there and you're staying there to learn, you're going to be going to their language school, which is separate. But if you don't want to be in Seoul, I'd want to know the reason why so I can recommend something else. It's just cheaper. So just for price, you have to go far then. Like if you're, because I would say, well, you could try Suwon, but Suwon isn't that cheaper than Seoul. I mean, the prices of stuff is going to be cheaper than like Hongdae. Like if you compare it to, if you're comparing it to like the busy area in Korea, then yeah, it's cheaper to go outside of Seoul. But Seoul does not automatically equal expensive. Certain areas in Seoul do, but Seoul itself has lots of cheap stuff. You just have to get right out of the tourist areas. Like you can literally walk 5 minutes away from places like Insadong or like the, what is it? The other place. Forgot the name of the market. Gwangjang, Gwangjang. Like the popular tourist area. Like you walk 5 minutes down the road and there are cheap restaurants again. It's kind of like the Las Vegas Strip. You know, Vegas, you think of being really expensive, but really it's just the Strip that's expensive. As soon as you get out of the Strip, Vegas is pretty affordable. At least it's cheaper than LA by a lot. So it's kind of like that in Seoul, I would say. But still, if you want to get even cheaper than that, then no, I wouldn't have a recommendation because you're giving up a lot of stuff by going to another place to learn Korean. That if you don't have a specific reason for it, I think you're getting more by being in Seoul, because unless you're already in love with the Korean countryside or like smaller Korean cities and you don't mind that it's going to be really quiet, you don't mind that you're not going to have that many people you can meet, you don't mind that all the friends you meet actually want to meet you in Seoul, then yeah, you can save money. Just go to any other major city besides Seoul. You can go to Busan, but Busan actually is expensive too. Daejeon, okay, you can go to Daejeon. Daegu kind of can be expensive too, so you can't go there. You'd have to pick any other city, but I wouldn't have a recommendation for a school because I've never gone to those. I think though you gain a lot from staying in Seoul. Another one I might recommend would be in Suwon. There is a campus called Gyeonggi University. There's also another campus called Aju University. And these are, there's a few others actually as well. But any of like the ones in Suwon are close to Seoul. It's by default a little bit cheaper than the tourist areas, but then still not that cheap. But then at least you would have an easy bus trip to get to Seoul if you want. It'd be about an hour to get into Seoul. The Dongmyeong channel is really good and creepy and barely understand most of it. Okay. Any recommendation for Korean news channels? News channels. No, I wouldn't know a recommendation for a news channel. Sorry. I've been focusing on economics vocab. I found a book series. Okay. Looking at Daegu and Busan. Yeah. Of those two, Daegu will be cheaper, but neither of them are going to be cheap because Busan While it originally would be much cheaper than Seoul, it lately became a tourist destination. So a lot of people go to Busan thinking it's like this fancy, like old style Korea. Like, yeah, let's all check out this cool oceanside town. And everyone thinks that, and everyone goes there, and the prices there go up too. So it's not cheap like it used to be when I was living there. Daegu, however, doesn't have that. It's still kind of expensive because originally it's like a kind of fancier, newer version in some ways. It has a lot of newer buildings, I think, than some of the areas in Busan that tourists go to. But it would be cheaper than Busan, I think, because of that. Oh, hey, Warren, thank you. I just see a donation. Let me write your name up here. That's an interesting donation amount, $7.50. Hi, Billy. I watched your Hanja series and it was great, but I want to learn more. Oh, you're talking about the Hanja I have in the Korean FAQ series. What resources do you recommend for learning more Hanja? Depends on how much your interest is in Hanja. If your interest in Hanja is like, oh, this is kind of cool, I wish I could learn a little bit more. Naver Dictionary, my friend. It's like sounds like the most boring resource, but no. Naver resource has so much good stuff. Like, you just put the Hanja in and search, and it'll show you like how it was written, how it was originally created, what it originally means, older forms of it, like everything, like how its meaning evolved. It's really good. In fact, I have other books for Hanja, and I prefer Naver Dictionary's Hanja resource over them. But if your interest in Hanja is more like, oh, I don't know what I should be searching, I don't know what I should be learning in the first place, I would get something like a generic Hanja dictionary. Not a dictionary, like a generic Hanja. Like, I know Talk to Me in Korean has like I think Talk to Me in Korean has do they have a Hanja? I think they have a Hanja thing. Hold on, now I have to check. I'm confused. I know they have something. Talk to Me in Korean. Hanja. Yeah. They have something, your first Hanja guide. I think. Yeah. It teaches how many? I have no idea how many it teaches. I'm not gonna promote them especially, but literally any Hanja book will do it for you. Because the point of, if you're just getting exposed to Hanja for the first time, the only thing you really need is just the general knowledge of lots of Hanja existing. Like, oh, you should learn the numbers, you should learn some of the colors, you should learn some of these ones. They're all teaching from the same set. Like, it's not like this book teaches the best ones, this book teaches some special ones. Korean only uses total about 2,000. Like, anywhere, they only use up to about 2,000. So it doesn't matter which resource you use. It doesn't matter if you pick a book that has all 2,000 or a book that only has 500. It doesn't matter, because you're going to get the same ones eventually. And your goal is not to learn every single Hanja in the universe, but your goal is to learn the ones you actually might need. And a book that teaches 100, well, they're going to try to pick the most useful 100 for beginners. And a book that teaches 500 will also teach those exact same 100, but with a few more. And it's obvious which ones are common because they're already categorized officially. There is a Hanja test in Korea. They have one in Japan and China too. There's a Hanja test that categorizes them already. So if someone like myself or any company wanted to make a Hanja book, we're not going to just say, I wonder what Hanja is good. This one, maybe this one. So you might think that, so that way they're all a little different. No. Because that's a waste of time. We already know which are the most common and useful ones because they're already organized by difficulty for that test. You just pick the easiest level and say, well, here we go. That's, a few hundred. Do I need more? All right, well then let's start taking from the next level. So that's what I mean by any of these books is fine if you're just trying to get your feet wet. But yeah, if you want to learn more in depth, I'd check out Naver. And if you want more in depth, let me know. I can recommend another book. But I'll wait to see if you want information on that. But that's good for like beginning level. I'm stuck on 받침. So you're talking about 받침 rules, like the sound change rules. Go to my Patreon page right now and check out there's a tab that says like collections. There's one that says cheat sheets. I have a cheat sheet for sound change rules. It has every sound change rule, including the obscure sound change rules. They all fit on one piece of paper. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. I definitely recommend getting that. It's free. There's an Anki deck for Hanja that's really nice that was made recently with 2,000. Well, there you go. There you go. That has all of them right there. Like I said, it's not like it's not something where you need to have the best materials to learn it. Like, no, literally a dictionary can teach you just as well as like I could teach you Hanja. I mean, I try to do like fun stuff like, did you know that this is also used for this, or this is the origin of it? Like, I try to make it fun. But as far as like just learning it for the knowledge of Hanja, any dictionary can do the same thing because it's already set up. Oh, Little Fox. Thank you, Little Fox. Billy did the screen rant thing. Oh, you noticed that. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Let's see, Little Fox. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Screen Rant fan from back when he first started. I've been following him for a long time. Just hope he never ever sees that. I am doing horrible impersonations of him because he will sue me. Oh, hey Cameron! Whoa, Cameron, where are you? Where were you? I didn't see you. You just popped up here. Did you, Cameron? Did you see the any of the live stream for spacing that I did? I'll give you the really quick summary in case you missed it. No one cares about spacing. Space every word individually. Particles and markers stick directly onto the word. Everything else gets spaced. Compound words are not spaced, as well as proper nouns are usually not spaced. Ida and every form of it attaches directly after. Auxiliary verbs like 보다 and 주다 are optional if you want to space it. Just be consistent. And titles are always spaced. So like 님, 시, 선생님, those are always spaced, but those are also separate words. And then that's pretty much it. Then there are a few exceptions here or there. Like that, yeah, that's in case you missed the letters. Wow, thank you so much, Cameron. That's crazy. I'm just gonna round it up. It's 99.99. I was just doing this live stream for fun today because I got a cold earlier this week that's gotten better. But I still have a bit of like, my throat is like kind of weird. But I still wanted to do an extra live stream today because I never have a chance to really talk about stuff like this, spacing in Korean in my regular videos or a regular live stream. But these sorts of bonus classes is my chance to do that. Cameron says, do not do 100 dabs. I was literally just about to do 100 dabs. I was going to change my, screen to show the dab thing and play music. Okay, well, I appreciate that because I don't want to get, you know what? I wonder if I did a bunch of dabs last week on Sunday. I wonder if that's why I got sick. Not because Jeremy got sick from school and was sneezing on me. No, it was the dabs. It was the dabs. Do you have recommendations for practice tests? Little Fox. For TOPIC, the best practice test is the previous year's TOPICs, but they used to be able to download them for free on their website. I think they changed it so that they don't, but you can still get them. You might have to just buy their official books that they sell through their partners, but you can still get them. Just buy whatever previous year's test that you can get. For a general Korean test, like if you just want a Korean test, you would make that with a tutor because the Korean test would have to match stuff that you're learning. So you'd have to have a test on stuff you've learned. It wouldn't make sense to give you a test on something that's your teacher hasn't taught you or your course hasn't taught you. So that'll just have to do with whatever resources you're using. 내가 왕에게 바친 물건이에요. Okay, I don't think they're talking about 바친. I think they're talking about 받힘, 받침. Yeah, I have a video on sound change rules. That's true. I think if Korean did use hanja, like Japanese uses kanji, then spacing would be similar to Japanese. So Noah Deeps, actually, you're wrong, fool. No, you're actually incorrect because they did do that. So Korean, I know, trying to make a joke. Japanese, if anyone knows Japanese, they, oh, actually, you didn't say. You said they would be similar to Japanese. Yeah. Well, actually, sorry, I take it back. But yeah, you wouldn't need spaces because when you write with Hanja and Hangul mixed together, there are so much Hanja that you don't need spaces. You can read it because every word that's Chinese is written in Hanja, and over 60% of Korean, no one knows the actual number because it depends how you classify what a word is. But Japanese is about the same. It's over 60% of Japanese as well comes straight from Chinese, from Hanja, from kanji in their case. So you don't need spaces when you write it in Korean. And Korean used to do that. And when Korean did a mixed script, which would have been during Japanese occupation, before that as well, they didn't have spaces in it. So you can see that as well. If you find like old newspaper articles, even from back as just like the 50s and 60s and 70s, you can find it as well. It'll just be mixed script. So everything's just mixed without spaces. It's really efficient how you can write it. It takes up much less space doing it that way as well. The downside is, though, you have to learn all of the Hanja in order to read it. So not only are you trying to master reading Hangul, which already takes a lot of time to get fast at, but you're also mastering Hanja as well. It's just a lot. So as a result, they got rid of it because a lot of people just weren't, what's the word? You can't read. They weren't, oh my goodness, why am I having a huge brain fart here? They couldn't read. Most people weren't able to read. There's a word for it and I can't think of it right now. Oh yeah, literate. That's the word that was on the tip of my tongue. Most people weren't literate. So you wouldn't be able to have people reading. So that's why they switched to just using only the alphabet. That way they can have like 98 or something, 99%, like pretty much every Korean can read the alphabet, which is great. I heard about mixed script. Okay, yeah, it would be mixed script. Downside, longer essay. Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would be fine with it because I was already doing that for Japanese because Japanese is mixed. They have the two alphabets, or I should say syllabitries. They use syllables. They're not letters. They have the syllable alphabets. They have two of those, and then plus the kanji. So I was already doing that for Japanese, so it wasn't a big deal. If Korean was doing that too, I'd be like, okay, great. Well, I guess I'd do it in Korean too. But not having to do it is really nice. And because Korean uses spaces, it makes it easier to read. So you really don't need any of the Chinese letters ever. And Korean has far more possible sounds than Japanese does, which makes it easier too. If you were stuck on Japanese is like, I think it's like 81 possible syllables that you can have. Korean has, oh God, it's like 11,000 grammatically correct possible syllables, like even more you could possibly make. Korean has so many possible syllable sounds you can do. You can't represent those. I mean, you can't, you can get away with not using Hanja for that and still read it because there's so many different ones. But in Japanese, you'll have like one syllable can have like 10 different meanings. So the Hanja, the kanji, makes it really easy to read and know right away what you're talking about without having to read the whole sentence to get the context or say it out loud to get the context. You can know the context right away by looking at the word. Yeah, literacy, that's the word I wanted. Do you think topic vocabulary is too different compared to the regular vocabulary? The low levels, I would say, are similar. The topic doesn't use fake Korean, but the higher levels of topic will use really advanced words that you won't use in everyday life commonly. But topic 1 and 2, like the lower levels, yeah, it's all real. I would learn all of that. It's good. Because the lower levels are they're still going to be regular words that you're using every day. I gave it to the king, patsin, past participle. Yes. Patsida, yeah, to give, like that. Dab 병에 걸렸나 보네요. Yeah, I got 대병. 대병. What they call it. Random question, but how do you say SpongeBob in Korean? Okay. Can't remember the squirrel's name. Give me a sec. Taramji is Tarami. Okay, Tarami. Oops, you can't read it down there. Okay, SpongeBob. 집게 사장 is the 집게 means like pincers, but it also sounds like K, like crab. And 사장 is boss. So this is Mr. Krabs. The 징징이, let me check. I think it's 징징이. Bob 징징이. Yeah, 징징이 and 둥이. Oh no, sorry, it's 둥이. I spelled it wrong. 둥이, 둥. Makes sense. 둥이. 둥이 is SpongeBob. Patrick is 둥이. Hey, SpongeBob. I love, if you watch SpongeBob in Korean, you're going to have a good time because they got the best voice actors possible. It sounds like the Tom Kenny, I think his name. It sounds like the actual actors speaking in Korean. Like they are so good. Tarami is it's like Taramji, so it's the squirrels. It's Sandy. 집게 사장, so Mr. Krabs. 징징이 is Squidward, because 징징이 sounds like complaining. And then 둥이 is, yeah, Patrick. So these are important words. You should know them. Hey, SpongeBob. Hey, ahoy, SpongeBob. You're throwing away me money. So yeah, definitely learn this. The most important Korean you'll ever learn. And it's pretty easy to understand, I think, because they speak really clearly. Like especially the funny thing about SpongeBob is that the most famous voice actor in the entire show is the voice actor for Patrick, because that actor has been around since I think like the 80s or something. Like he's a really established, famous voice actor who does Patrick in SpongeBob. And I remember reading an interview where SpongeBob, the voice actor in Korean, was saying he was like so shocked. Like it was such an honor for him to finally meet the voice actor for Patrick in the show, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's really good. It's peak voice acting. So it said they like my SpongeBob laugh. Okay. Although I think he laughs a little bit different in Korean. I can't do the Korean version's a slightly different, but it's really good. Yeah, 보다 is 보다는 or 보단, same thing. Hey, SpongeBob. Mr. Krab is tongs boss. Yeah, it's tongs. Yeah, 집게 would be tongs or like pincers or anything like that. Anything like this that clips or grabs something is 집게, but also sounds like K, like crab. Oh, and then they call it the 게살버거? I think it's called the 게살버거. Like the crab meat burger or something. I can't remember the name of the Krabby Patty also has another thing. Because I've never watched the show, but you hear it. I hear it enough from when my kid watches it in the background. And I've like seen little clips of it. And yeah, it's great. I wonder if it's better than Peppa Pig. For Korean, yes. Because you'll understand SpongeBob really good. The first time you watch it, you're going to understand it. Why? Because you've already seen the episode in English. And because they show what they're doing so well in the show. Like this show is just so goofy. I think it's decent for listening practice. Now, don't do shadowing from SpongeBob. I don't think you're going to have a good time if you start speaking like any of the characters in that show. But it's really good for listening practice as far as like you'll understand it really well. Switching from Patrick's voice to SpongeBob back and forth technically cleanse mucus from vocal cords. Hey, SpongeBob. Hey, SpongeBob. Yeah, I guess so. This is the Krusty Krab. No, this is Patrick. Gonna try a Korean, try to find a Korean version of Ren and Stimpy. No, that they don't. They didn't get the show as far as I know. Um, they they did draw. What was it? Because I was friends with a guy who was one of the original animators on um oh man, the Angry Beavers. They started doing like Korean shows where they started doing shows where they were drawn in Korea. I think SpongeBob also is drawn in Korea, but they started like earlier. And I remember knowing a guy who was one of the original animators on that show. But I don't think Ren and Stimpy and the older shows ever made it to Korea. Like you're not going to find like a Korean version of Are You Afraid of the Dark or stuff like that. I just don't think they got it at that point. Ren and Stimpy would be great. That's the original SpongeBob. That show is so cursed. Oh man. No sir, I don't like it. That show is so cursed. But the music, you'll hear, I know we're like way beyond Korean now. The music that they created for Ren and Stimpy. So when they made Ren and Stimpy, the really cool thing is they asked for a budget for music, and they went all out. You can find the production music soundtrack for Ren and Stimpy on YouTube, and you can download it. It's huge. It's like over 100 tracks of classics. Like you'll recognize a lot of the music even if you've never seen Ren and Stimpy because they reuse it everywhere, all over Nickelodeon shows. But yeah, a lot of that music, like the really good music Nickelodeon uses, including in SpongeBob, they use it again. It all came from Ren and Stimpy. So that was like the pivotal show for like a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the jokes in SpongeBob are also copied over from, in a good way, I should say, maybe homage from Ren and Stimpy. Okay, for some reason the comment doesn't show up, Hope, but I can see it. 이 소 뱃속에 들어가 있는 동안은 이 소를 지금 버덤 열 갑절이나 기운이 세게 해드리겠습니다. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Is that... Oh, I see what you're talking about. So where you originally saw 보덤. Yeah. I hear it in my head. It was in the Sega game too. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. They had a Sega game. But yeah, if you watch SpongeBob and hear anytime they have orchestrated music that sounds like it's from like an actual classical music album, oh, that's the Ren and Stimpy music. Stimpy, you idiot! Except the the original voice actor for Ren was like some not a very good person, I think. I remember hearing about that. But the guy who took over, funnily enough, the voice for Stimpy ended up doing both Ren and Stimpy. Not Tom Kenny. And why am I having another brain fart? I can picture his head. He's the guy, voice of Fry from Futurama and Doug. I can see him. I can hear him. I met him in person. But yeah, anyway. I'll think of his name in like a minute and I'll just suddenly randomly shout it out. But Stimpy. Reminding you of your essay. Oh, let me check to see if I can find that. Billy West. It was Billy West. That's who it was. Okay. Let me find my essay. Let's see. Pottery. I should have that. Whoa. Pottery. Pottery. Where's my pottery? Ceramics. I think it was ceramics is what I called it. Yeah, I found it. Okay, I found it. You guys ready for some genius essay about ceramics? Okay. This is what I turned in. It's no joke. I was in high school. This is what I turned in. This was 2001. Ceramics and other products with consanguinity have been replicated throughout the ever-diverging world since the dawn of man. Accompanying these affirmations was the increased cognition of sculptures and methods of creation. Glazes, as well as similar classed coatings for earthen objects, acquired the title for the neoteric caprice in ceramics. I'm not... I turned this in. It goes on. I don't know if I want to read the whole thing. I don't know if you want to hear it, but I'll do the next paragraph. In the traditional glaze fire, which has a heat calefaction of over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, does, overall, completely abolish all forms of clay infections and cause an excitation of bacterium. There are presently a plethora, I wanted to use that word, a plethora of groups composed of glazes made up of a throng of element types. This selection gives a great deal of lenity toward the artist and sculptor. And it goes on. It goes on. It goes on and on and on. I'm just going to go to the end. The never-ending world of ceramic glazes prevents someone from acting to defenestrate or dilapidate a project, pun intended, if used correctly. Glazes allow dilettantes, or in general, artists with or without skill, to produce works with skill equal to a professional. In conclusion, global artistry is nothing more than a small hermitage without the presence of glazes. I got an A+. I got the full points and extra credit. The teacher was like legitimately impressed. It is garbage. And the only reason I kept it is because it's garbage. Like, I wanted to remember, like, I got a passing grade. I got flying colors with this garbage. Yeah. It sounds like AI. No, AI can't write that good. AI can't write that good. Anyway, the rest of it's pretty much the same. The funny thing, though, is when I was writing it, my only goal was let's write something just so obscure and like all these random thesaurus words. But when I actually read it back to myself and thought about it after turning it in, I realized that the whole point of the essay, what I'm saying is that just being good at glazes makes it so that even if you are bad at pottery, you can make something that looks like a professional. That's like the theme of the entire paper, is just showing how glazes cover up imperfections and make it look better than it actually is. And, you know, I don't think it's wrong. I think it's kind of true. If you have like poor looking ceramic, like a really simple pot, like nothing special, but you glaze the heck out of that, that's a good piece of ceramic. That's a really nice piece of pottery, right? So that was kind of my point of the essay. But anyway, it was stupid. Yeah, this was not AI, I swear. It was before AI. It was Shift F7 was my secret, which is you highlight a word in Microsoft Word and you click Shift F7 and it'll open up the thesaurus. And you can find the most convoluted sounding word in the list and replace it with that word. And that's what I did for the entire essay. And then verifying on the internet, Googling words, or I don't even think I Googled. I think I would just go to like a thesaurus website or something, because Google didn't show you definitions back then. Get Tom Kenny to make an audiobook of the essay. Yes. Billy, do Koreans make spacing errors unintentionally? Yes, because it's faster than having to read it over again and fix your spacing errors. So they might make spacing errors intentionally if they're just writing really quickly. Usually, though, they make spacing errors because they don't know. But if they're going extra fast and they accidentally, like, oops, just a typo, forgot to hit space, then yeah, they might just leave it. What subjects did you do well in high school and college? English. I was really good at English class. In English class, yes. In English class. You can tell I'm a pro at English. I was really good at English. And I was actually really good at math through high school until I started college and realized that it depends on my teacher, and that when I didn't have a good teacher anymore, my math would I just couldn't do it. So I did really good all through high school and a little bit into college. But then the second I had a bad teacher, it was just a TA who was teaching the pre-calculus class. Or no, this was a calculus class. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. But when I had good teachers up to there, I did really good in math. Basically English, though. I used to love like classical English, writing English essays. Um, I would even hang out with my English teacher in high school, and we would go see plays together with my mom, and we would go see Moliere plays, which are normally French. The playwright is hilarious, but even the English translations of Moliere are really good. If anyone wants to experience old style humor, like you might think that people weren't funny in the 1700s, 1600s, 1800s, like go back a few hundred years, you might think, oh, it's not really that funny. It's not my style of humor. No. Moliere is like literal Seinfeld stuff. Like it's good in modern day audience, as long as they translated it so that it's not too like the pronunciation. They're not saying it like the original pronunciation. It's funny stuff. So we'd watch plays of that sometimes. Yeah. English probably was my main subject. I remember last live stream made a whole sentence with filler words. Yeah, that was fun. Similar to with donuts, glazes have an untold joy to human culture. Yeah. That's true. You get a good glazed donut. My favorite donut, I thought about this a lot. If I could only pick one donut, it's gonna be a maple bar, I think. Not that I'm like a huge fan of maple or anything. I just think if I want a donut, I just want like something simple, right? And nothing to me says simpler than just a bar, because it's soft. The problem with the rings is they're really good when they're fresh, like the donut rings, but they quickly dry out because they have a lot of surface area. I feel like the bars kind of remedy that because they're so long that even if the outside starts to get a little dry, the inside will still be nice and soft for a while. So yeah, either a chocolate glazed or a maple glazed. But sometimes the chocolate glaze can be, depending on the place, they might use like cheaper chocolate, so it might not taste great. But maple one, they have to use like, it's just going to be sugar and like maple flavoring at the least. But I feel like a cheap maple glaze will taste better than a cheap chocolate glaze, so I go with maple. Like Chaucer. Yeah, I actually never saw any of those plays. I don't know. I was just a big Moliere fan in high school. Because I remember like my French teacher at the time telling me about Moliere because he's famous French playwright, and I was thinking, okay, who the heck is this? And we read a little bit of it in French, and I'm like, okay, whatever, it's kind of funny. But then when you hear it in English, you're like, wait a minute, when was this guy born? Like, this is funny today. Yeah. Anyway, and then in contrast, I actually saw. So I'd seen like 3 complete Moliere plays in high school, but then I saw one more after that, which was not an original Moliere play. It was a remake where a high school, it wasn't my high school, but another high school nearby had done a modernized version of a Moliere play. So what they did is they took the original, the English translation, and then they modernized all the language to how we would talk today. And I swear it was not funny. Like it sucked out the life from it. Like it's funny as it is in modern day, in modern day culture with modern day English. It's funny as it is, but when you updated it, it suddenly felt like it was like trying to be funny. I don't know. It just didn't work anymore. Anyway, if you're ever curious, search Moliere. It's actually really hilarious. It's just like a Seinfeld type of situation with like things that keep going wrong and people that keep messing stuff up. Yeah. Do you use DC Inside? No, I don't. No, a lot of those websites are mostly younger Koreans who are by extension immature. So you're not going to get a good sampling of what Koreans actually talk like. It's more like people who are chronically online and have too much free time and are also not yet mature is the majority. And then the adults that are on that website, not all of them, but a lot of them also are kind of in that same category where they have too much free time and they're hanging out with younger people. It's not a great website for that. Anin says, if you go to one of the big supermarkets at 8 to 9, yes, typically after 8 o'clock, major supermarkets will do huge discounts. And that will be specifically on the fresh made items. So that will be like in their bakery department and their sandwich department and their meats department. But yeah, it's not the stuff that they're selling that's refrigerated. It's the stuff that's they sell hot, like the buckets of chicken, that sort of stuff, or the sushi plates, sandwiches, the daily made kimbap rolls, bread, all that stuff. They'll stick these gigantic discounts on them, like 80% off or like at least 50% off. So I like that too, because whenever I stay in Korea, we're not too far from a Home Plus, which is just like a big, it's like, you know, a Walmart type of club, supermarket or whatever. And we'll go there, we'll wait around. If we want like a midnight snack, you know, wait around there after like 8 o'clock or something and just wait. The worker goes by, put stickers on stuff and just, okay, grab this like giant sushi platter for like $10. It's like this, you know, this, I can't even show it, like this big, this giant thing with like 30 pieces of sushi and everything, like $10, just check it out and go. I mean, even the full price is fair, like $20 for that is still awesome. But to think you can get it for like $10 and then, you know, me and my wife will eat it at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. That's a trick if you live in Korea and you want something cheap. I wouldn't recommend that to a tourist because your time is more important than saving $5 or $10. But if you live there, yeah, that's why I say if you know, you know. Yeah. No, I get you already know that too. Yeah, there are a couple websites like that. I'm not going to name the other one, but they're kind of similar. Yeah. And then just like any website, there are going to be some normal, cool people on any website as well. But the majority, like the way Korean culture works is in high school, you don't have any free time. So how is someone going to be using a website if they're in high school and they're really busy? It's going to be really briefly between their classes, maybe, if they have time to do that at all. But they're not going to be like doing very much there. They might just like check it. But the people who are posting on there, like spending time and doing all this stuff, that's the ones that they have tons of free time for some reason. So yeah, it's not the best place to go. And you might think that you'll learn like cool slang there or expressions. But the thing is, a lot of slang that starts on the internet doesn't really break out of there. Like you might learn an expression on a website that seems like, oh, this is really cool. This is what Korean kids are using. But then if you use it in real life, no one knows what you're talking about because it hasn't actually broken past the internet. There are very few words that will break out of the internet and get into regular usage. I actually made a video about this. I believe it's Yaminjeongum, which is like the Korean kids slang, like online brain rot slang, kind of is maybe a way to think about it. But it's stuff that breaks out of a lot of this, actually not a lot of it, some of this actually breaks out of the internet and gets into real life and people will use it. A really common one, I would say, is Tengdengi for dog. Tengdengi is a word for dog. It's a slang word. It's like a newer slangy word. And it comes from that same concept because tang looks like mong. If you write it like that, right? Mong for mongmongi is a word for a dog. I know I wrote this part really weird. Mongmongi is a word for dog, but if you kind of smash it all together, it could also look like it's saying tangy, right? So that's kind of the nickname for dogs that came about. So except for a few cases, a lot of that just stays online. If you go around using it to other people, now if you use it to a younger kid, they might be, oh, wow, you know the slang I use on that website. But that's about it. If you use it to their parents, they're going to be like, you know the slang on that website? That's weird. Like, I've never heard that before. So choose your battles. Is that what you want to sound like? Usually not. My son and daughter-in-law are potters. I wonder what they would think of your thesis on glazes. They make their own. Wow. That's really specific. Yeah, it's bad. Let me see if I had anything else I wrote. Let's see. Yeah, I say contained in the glaze sections, the luster group is the glazes that resemble crystals, smooth rocks, and stalactites found in jewelry and other gems with intrinsically decorated textures. Such glazes include emerald, diamond, ruby, sapphire, amethyst, salt, quartz, malachite, azurite, topaz, opal, marble, and many more. I just listed all of the types of things I could think of that would be in glazes. The other separate category is the metals. These specific glazes had been manufactured to provide a similar specular resemblance along with a similar radiosity and ambience range. I don't think so. I just made that up. This basically means that the color and light values remain similar throughout the diffused exterior texture or face normal, which was a term from like 3D software, I think. It doesn't have anything to do with this. Metal glazes come in the basic selections, along with more advanced gradients, including, again, I'm just listing, chrome, copper, silicon, aluminum, tin, titanium, gold, silver, iron, steel, antimony, latin, and many others. Yeah. Again, I mean, I got a good grade on that. You need to make a Korean version of this essay. No, I'm not gonna do that. What version of the word target would be used if I was meaning myself? I'm not sure. Do you, Kyonyang, like you're talking about like I'm being targeted or like or to target something? 목적 is also another word for a target. Like if you're like that's my goal target. Will you ever make a video on umsumche? No, probably not. Taesang could be a target if you're talking about the grammatical term, like the subject target. Billy, I'm struggling to mention double consonants. Was this talked about in the live? The live today was about spacing, so I didn't mention anything about double consonants. But if you have a question about them, a tip to remember vocabulary quicker. Yes. If you're able to use it in any sentence, that's going to help a lot. If you have a vocabulary word that all you can do is you can just recognize what it means and click it on your Anki deck or, check it off like, oh, I know that word. That does not mean that you're learning the word. In fact, you won't be able to use that word at all just because you can recall it on a vocabulary test or in a deck. The only way to actually learn it quickly is to use it. And when you hear it, that'll help, but you don't actually learn just by hearing it. If that were the case, we would already know every single English word that we've ever heard, and that's not true at all. You don't know a lot of English words, you just can fill it in by the context. So for actually learning the word, you need to, whenever you are writing it down, make a sentence with it, even if it's not a good sentence. Like if your sentence is like 사자 for lion, well, you could say like, oh, the lion bounced like frolicked freely in the bushes. Like you can make this complex sentence. No, just say 저는 사자를 먹었어요. I ate a lion. That's fine. But be able to use it in a sentence is going to help a lot to actually learning it. Because then the next time you actually need to say that word, you're not going to have to go back to your brain, be like, oh wait, what was the word for lion? What was the word for lion? Oh no, I've never actually used it before. And it's, it's too late now. If you've actually used the word before, it's going to come out more easily. So try to use it is the thing I'll tell you. Doesn't matter if it's some perfect sentence, just make your own sentence even. Try to use it somehow. Okay, I'll just answer a couple more questions and then we'll stop for today. I think it's been a pretty productive live stream. We talked about everything as well as spacing. You know what's kind of funny though? I know it's not really related, but I was talking about Moliere, Monty Python. You know what's funny is Koreans a lot of Koreans actually like Monty Python. There is a trans. They did Spamalot in Korea. Spamalot, for those who don't know, is like a Broadway show version, basically, of Monty Python and the Holy Grail and some other show. It's like kind of a combination of some Monty Python stuff, mainly around, I think, that. I haven't seen it, though I've heard about it. But they actually had performances of Spamalot in Korea for a while, for like a few years, I think. And a lot of Koreans liked it, which I'm like, is so random because it's not Korea style humor normally. But yeah, I think that's pretty funny, is that you could probably introduce your Korean friends to Monty Python and they might like it. There are people who have done translations on the internet for different scenes from Monty Python in Korean, so it's easier to understand. Who doesn't? Well, I mean, you would think that, but Korean humor normally is like opposite from Monty Python. Like that type of dry humor is not really that popular in Korea normally. Like British humor, Canadian humor, like dry American humor doesn't really translate well over into Korea because they don't do that kind of thing. They do more like sarcasm is fine, but not so much of the dry humor. And Monty Python has a lot of that dry humor, but I think it might work is because it's like it's like goofy dry humor. Like, you know, clearly that they're making no sense, that it's goofy. Hey, SpongeBob. What is Korean humor usually like? I don't watch a lot of the Korean TV shows, the like for comedy. I don't find it that funny. I feel like a lot of it relies on slapstick, which I personally don't think slapstick is funny. Sometimes jokes about body humor, I don't think that's funny, personally. Jokes about a situation, like a funny or embarrassing situation. Like, oh, I was put in this embarrassing situation because of this. I don't really find that very funny. It doesn't mesh well with me for like a lot of the standard Korean humor. That's not to say Korean humor is not funny. There is funny Korean humor. But the general type of Korean humor that is in comedy shows doesn't match well with me. But you can Google 개그 콘서트, like concert, like gag concert. It's like for joke. It's like a comedy show, basically, or show instead of concert. And you can search these on YouTube. They'll have, like, you know, lots of performances by different comedians doing shows, and, you know, they're subtitled, and some of them even have English subtitles you can look for. But yeah, I feel like a lot of that kind of humor just doesn't resonate well with me. Like, someone looks funny, therefore it's funny. It's not my style of humor. Like, if someone dresses up really goofy and has like a big wart on their face and says and acts like they're stupid, it's just not my style of humor, I guess. I'm more of I like the witty humor, or like dry humor that's obscure. Monty Python's a good example of that. Seinfeld's another good example of that. Stuff like that. It's just a different style. So, but I mean, I do have some friends who they're not Koreans, but they also love Korean humor. So you might really like that too. Monty Python, maybe because the expression is dry but layered hidden sarcasm. Yeah, maybe it's just so like ridiculous that it can't possibly be serious. He has slapstick and makes fun of and ignored tensions. Usually unexpected situation. Yeah, unexpected situation. Or someone being foolish. Yes. It doesn't make me laugh, so I don't watch it. Unintentional comedy is funnier to me when someone's not trying to be funny but ends up saying or doing something stupid or hilarious anyway. Okay, that can be funny sometimes. And that also will be sometimes a feature of Korean stuff too. Like, the character will say something stupid but they're serious about it. Sometimes that can be funny. That's also a feature of Japanese humor. I don't watch Korean comedy shows, but I used to watch a lot of Japanese comedy shows. I feel like that humor style is also very different, and I liked a lot of it. kind of like where one person is the straight man and the other person's, you know, the dumb person. They're just making these jokes. And anyway, yeah, that kind of humor is pretty funny. Like you have one person who's goofy and the other one who's serious. That's more of a Western style humor, or like not the Korean style humor as much. I wonder how well dad jokes go over there, because here mine don't work. Oh yeah, dad jokes are great. Koreans love puns. So, or I should say, not necessarily that they love puns, but they appreciate them. So yeah, you'll be good with 아재 개그. 아재 is like 아저씨, so a dad essentially. 개그 would be a joke, so 아재 개그 would be dad jokes. Yeah, they like them. Probably they'd go over well, better with Koreans than your own kids. The Office Pirates probably won all nations. Billy, which is more rude? Speaking umsumche or 반말? Umsumche would be, yeah. But you don't want to do either. Like, I mean, 반말 is not rude unless you're doing it to a stranger. But then if you're talking with a stranger with one or the other, like both of them would be rude because you're being disrespectful either way. But yeah, if you're talking with your friend, then it'll depend on how you normally speak with your friend. But it's not that 반말 is rude and 존댓말 is polite. That's not how it works. 존댓말 can be rude if you're using it to your friend and you're using it sincerely. It can be kind of rude because it's like, hey, I thought we're friends. Why are you? It sounds like you're distant from me, like you're trying to be polite to me, but that's not polite because we're friends. So I try not to use labels of like polite or casual too much when I can, just because they're not always that way. If you say "yut" in the southern Philippines, people would stare at you. It means totally different. Especially when we say "yuton." I guess it's some word. Oh, I missed it. You deleted it. Did you do a typo? Okay. I think that's good for today. I was trying to keep going until until our large donation disappeared, until Cameron's donation disappeared off the top, because it's still like counting down. Fry and Lori do the double act. Yeah, kind of like that. That's the double act. I feel like can be pretty funny, but I'm not a fan of the double act with slapstick. So some of that stuff, like I actually didn't know some other comedians very well, but I do know like Three Stooges. I wasn't a fan of Three Stooges because it's like slapstick. I don't find slapstick funny, but I really liked Marx Brothers because Marx Brothers weren't slapstick very much. They had some slapstick parts, but it was more about what they're saying. So I was a big Marx Brothers fan. 그늘이 있으면 행복한 이유 뭔지 아시나요? 해피해서. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that kind of joke is going to be, Koreans are going to love that. So 그늘에 있으면, so when you're in the 그늘, the shade, 행복한 이유, the reason you're happy, 뭔지 아시나요? Do you know the reason why you're happy when you're in the shade? And the answer is 해피해서. 해피해서, because you are happy, or 해, sun, 피해서, because you're avoiding the sun. Because yeah, it's pretty funny. Well, it is. Oh, I can see your comment, Polygon Gaming. I don't know if it shows up, but I get it. I get what you're saying. Difference between dance and 춤. So 춤 is the traditional word for dance. So dance is just more of any sort of modern dancing, like K-pop dancing or just dancing for fun, like woohoo, like that. And 춤 would be more of like a traditional, like an actual choreographed traditional Korean dance. So you're not going to, but it also applies to any kind of dance because it literally is just 추다, the verb to dance. 춤 is just any dance. So while dance only refers to just the foreign word in general, like anyone dancing around, 춤 is like a actual dance. So it can be a traditional dance. It can also just be a modern dance that's like choreographed and professional. Like a K-pop singer also does 춤. But they're similar. They're synonyms with a different nuance. But if you're just looking at someone dancing, you can use either one. Dance. BTS Jin, yeah, that makes sense. Jin would say that. 해피해서. That's pretty Pretty good joke. That's a high quality dad joke though. That's not a low quality. That's one where you immediately get it and it's funny. Okay, that's enough for today. I think we've been going on for almost 2 hours now. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to be doing another live stream, an actual class this time on Sunday. We'll have new voting options tomorrow, so you can pick which lesson, which topic you'd like to learn. We also have a new Stray Kids video going up tomorrow morning about Hyunjin, as well as if you are a Patreon member, you can also watch the next one tomorrow morning too, which will be Han. The fifth one. You'll also get to watch Han video tomorrow as well. So if you're a Patreon member, check that out. If you're not, you still get to watch Hyunjin's video tomorrow. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. Oh, and one more time, I just want to say thank you again to the supporters, Raymond, Warren, Little Fox, and Blamerin. Okay, see you guys. Ceramics and other products with consanguinity have been replicated throughout the ever-diverging world since the dawn of man. Accompanying these affirmations was the increased cognition of sculptures and methods of creation. Glazes, as well as similar classed coatings for earthen objects, acquired the title for the neoteric caprice in ceramics. Oh God, how did I pass with that?